Good evening and welcome. This is a regular meeting of the Princeton Planning Board on Thursday, May 7th, 2026. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given by prominently posting the resolution of regularly scheduled meetings of this planning board for February 2026 through January 2027. A copy was filed with the Clerk of Princeton on January 14, 2026. Legal notice on the adoption of said resolution was published in the January 16, 2026 edition of the Princeton Packet. Notice of this meeting also has been posted to the municipal website, princetonnj.gov/calendar. Notice that all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Planning Board will be held electronically via Zoom, was transmitted to the Princeton Packet and the Times, and was filed with the Clerk of Princeton on Tuesday, January 14, 2026. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. During hearings on applications for development, members of the public will have an opportunity to comment and ask questions. Public comment is heard by the board after an applicant's representatives have finished their presentations and have been questioned by planning board members and staff. Those wishing to comment orally should virtually raise your hand by clicking on the reactions or raise hand icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or if participating by phone, by pressing *9. Oral comments will be taken in the order in which hands were raised. We ask with respect that members of the public express your views in 3 minutes or less. A countdown clock on your screen will help speakers keep track of time. Please note that speakers who exceed 3 minutes will be interrupted. Inappropriate public comment containing obscenity, hate speech, or relating to matters not before the board will be muted. Ms. Battle, could you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Mr. Boddingheimer?
Here.
Councilman Cohen?
Here.
Mayor Frida? Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Ms. Nuka? Mr. O'Donnell?
Here.
Ms. Perlmutter?
Here.
Ms. Swimmer? Mr. Taylor?
I know
He is
Mr.
here.
Taylor
He
is
is
here, but you're muted.
Mr. Taylor?
Jack, you're muted. Is Jack maybe muted through the webinar through Zoom rather than on his own computer? There we go.
Here we go.
Am I on now?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Oh, there we are. What? Something's wrong with the screen, Justin, but nonetheless, I can hear.
Yeah, I'm noticing I see you in two places, one with my name, one with yours.
Yeah. Anyway, you're here. So we're gonna continue the roll call and figure out your doppelganger situation.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Jack, would it be possible to log out and log back in, perhaps?
Yeah, again, what please, Justin? Again, what please, Justin? Again, Justin?
Yeah, we're getting some feedback from the two that are on. So if you could log out and try logging back in, that might solve the problem.
Am I properly back in?
We hear you now. Can you see us?
Yes. No, yeah, you just came up.
Great.
Don't ask.
Problem solved.
It would appear so.
There you go.
Well,
Okay, Deidre, can you continue with the roll call, please?
Of course. Ms. Wilson Anderson?
Here.
Chair Wilson?
Here.
You have a
I'll,
quorum.
I'll just
And
note, Deidre, yeah, Linda Schwimmer arrived after you called.
that's
her.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Announcements. I just have a couple. First of all, Our next meeting is May 28th, I think, to avoid a holiday. So that's an unusual 3-week gap rather than 2 weeks. And I just want to note too that tonight we will take a break at 9 or 9:15, and then we'll have a hard stop at 11 p.m. So we have a lot on the agenda, and hopefully we'll certainly try to get through things, but we're not going to go past 11. And then finally, I just wanted to note, feels like he sort of snuck out the door, but I know that wasn't really the case. Derek Bridger, our longtime zoning officer, has retired, and I just want to say he was just an exceptional zoning officer and a thoroughly good human being. I think he was as humble as he is brilliant at his job, and I'm sure that our new zoning officer, Ms. Gribben, has been told 1,000 times that she has big shoes to fill, and I don't mean to psych you out or anything like that. Welcome aboard. I mean, I know you've been around for a while now, but it's great to have you as our new zoning officer. I just didn't want to not comment on Derek's departure, because he was really just, as I said, an exceptionally good zoning officer. So
Thank you.
fair winds and all to Derek. Hope he has a wonderful retirement and does not get calls night and day from who knows who with questions about zoning. I mean, Justin or others, are there additional announcements? Nope. Okay. Subcommittee reports. I understand we don't have any of those. I think we're in the process of scheduling a landscape committee meeting, but that has not been set yet. So we'll report on that after it is set. Now we have 2 sets of minutes. The first from March 5th, 2026. Any edits, suggestions? And if not, would someone like to move those minutes?
I'll move them.
Thanks, Councilman Cohen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mr. Taylor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next, we have minutes from April 9th, 2026. Comments, edits, motion?
Move the minutes.
Thank you, Owen. And is second?
I wasn't
Thank you,
there, so
Freddie.
yeah.
I saw Freddie Perlmutter's hand go up, so I'm taking that as a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next up, we have an application for an extension of time. This is from Stephen Wasco, a minor subdivision. The approval was granted December 19th of 2024. The first extension was approved July 17th of last year, 2025. This is at 561 and 537 Stockton Street, file number P2323-368MS. Jerry, can you speak to notice and jurisdiction?
Yeah, let me ask Justin. Justin, what did we do? Did we decide they didn't have to notice for these extensions? I thought that they did not have to, but we might have required anyway.
I believe the applicant did notice on these.
Okay.
Yes, so they did notice as they did the last time. So they did notice the first extension request in July of last year, and to make sure everything is clear, clear cut. They re-noticed for this one. We have those in our file, and everything was as it should be.
Good. Okay, great.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mr. Foote. So the memo about this came from Nathan and Justin. Which of you would like to take the lead? I think Nathan.
That would be me, Madam Chair.
Okay, great.
Yep, thank you. So I just do want to take a moment to reorient the board members to the history of the application. And as you noted, there is a memo dated May 1st, 2026. And so really all I'm doing is summarizing that memo. So at a meeting on October 17th, 2024, the board heard and approved a minor subdivision application to adjust the lot line between Mr. Bryant's property at 537 Stockton Street and Mr. Waskow's property at 561 Stockton Street. And what I want to do now is just very quickly, let's see. Let's see, that should be sharing the screen, the map, the overhead map of the site. And I just very quickly want to just point out that the entire idea of this application was, again, it's a lot line adjustment. They are taking away this line here between the two properties, creating almost what would be a flag-shaped lot, providing access to the brook for 537 Stockton Street, and then providing a little bit more space for Mr. Waskow's property at 561 Stockton. And a large reason for that is so that he could move his house, a house that was built in the 18th century, away from the floodplain. The board saw images from the Ida floods in 2021 during the first hearing. And so the idea is to be able to move that house away from the floodplain and up to this higher elevation area to the east, to the northeast of that location.
And why don't we treat this as a formal hearing? So we'll mark this as exhibit PB1. And if you could identify it.
Yes, sorry, I had that in my notes and then I forgot to say it. But yes, this is an overhead image. It's a map from NJ Parcel Explorer website, which was created by Rowan University.
Thank you.
And it's an overhead image of the two properties in question.
Right. With lot lines delineated for the lots in the area.
Correct. So now moving on, so I've stopped sharing and moving on. Planning Board approved the findings of fact for the project on December 19th, 2024. Per the municipal land use law, an applicant has 190 days to record the subdivision with the county before the approval expires. Therefore, the original deadline to file the subdivision was June 19th, 2025. The applicant requested an extension on May 30th of last year. The board granted that request at its meeting on July 17th. Of 2025, and the resolution for that was adopted September 4th of last year. The resolution concluded that the board, quote, voted to extend the filing period to be determined by the board upon further application once NJDOT approves the subdivision plan and the dedication. The length of the extension will be the time period occasioned by the NJDOT delay. And just for clarification for everyone, NJDOT is the New Jersey Department of Transportation. I'm sure everybody knows that, just for clarification purposes. And
the main reason for their involvement was it was right away that was being dedicated to
Jerry, I didn't understand what you said.
The main reason for the involvement of DOT was there was dedicated right away being dedicated.
Right. Okay.
From 206. Yep. 206.
Yep. 206. Right. It's Highway 206, which is under NJDOT jurisdiction. So our comments, we just had a few that are really relevant. First, the applicant should provide testimony and or documentation as to the date that application was made to the NJDOT for approval. They did receive approval. We have that approval letter and permit in the file for this application. So they do have the final approval from DOT. Next, the board surveying consultant, Mr. Gregory Sandusky, must review and approve meets and bounds descriptions. The most recent review letter that we have from him, it was dated July 14th, 2025. And that indicated several issues that had to be clarified or addressed with the subdivision plan, as well as the meets and bounds descriptions before that approval could be granted. So revised drafts have been provided by the applicant's professionals, but we still have to have that final approval from Mr. Sandusky. There was not a specific amount of time for the extension requested. But given the remaining items to be handled, the resolution for this finalization has to be adopted at the next hearing on May 28th. And that approval from Mr. Sandusky, our recommendation was that the extension be made to the first week of June up to Friday, June 5th. I'm not sure how exactly that gets put into the resolution, whether it has to be a number of days or what have you, but our recommendation would be through up to Friday, June 5th as a possible extension date. And finally, again, it's been extended once already. This is what kind of amounts to a finalization of that extension request. But if the board does not approve the request for extension, the applicant would be able to return to the board with the same subdivision application. Just to clarify what that means, he would have to return and receive approval for the subdivision, not just, and the variances for that matter, and not just an extension request. And so with that, that's all I have for this one. Obviously, if anybody has any questions, I can answer them. And I believe that the applicant and his attorney is here to answer questions as well.
Okay. David Cohen?
Yeah, I just feel like I need a little bit more explanation of that June date. I mean, my understanding is that the resolution that approved the extension originally said that the extension should be predicated on the delay that was caused by the outside agency. And the outside agency caused a delay of, a year or more.
18
And
months.
so the question is, why are we only giving the applicant a week from when we pass this resolution to get their application in?
That is so that's our recommendation, just based on what still needs to be handled. Obviously, it's the board's discretion to how much of a time delay or how much of a extension should be provided. Obviously, it is tied to the NJDOT approval. They've received that. But ultimately, it is the board's discretion as far as how much additional time beyond that. What our recommendation was to provide to the applicant.
I guess we'll hear from the applicant of what they would like to receive, but it seems like, given the language in the statute, we could justify much longer extension if desired.
Sorry, I was just going to say that one thing that we did discuss internally was that one of the reasons that we asked for the clarification on when this was submitted to NJDOT is basically that kind of sets the clock for when the approval was delayed, essentially. So if that question can be answered, we can also get more clarity on how much of a delay should be, or how much of an additional extension, a final extension date can be provided.
Right. Okay.
Owen?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that letter from Mr. Sandusky, I believe, was his name, is the one thing that we're waiting on?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Jerry, were you gonna say something?
Right. It was unclear to me about, you said there was the May 28th date, Nathan, we want them to do something to file another application?
No, so in order to finalize the extension, we would need a resolution And so that is the date of the next board meeting. And so that's when that resolution could conceivably be adopted.
Okay, okay. And I guess the tricky thing then is can we tie a date for them to get their perfection of their subdivision, which is by filing a plat or filing deeds, tie that into approval of the final meets and bounds by Mr. Sandusky?
Yep.
Right. So
Yeah, just what do you think, Nathan?
yeah, I mean, that's why I was thinking that at least June 5th, but as Councilman Cohen indicated, there might be more leeway in that regard.
Because my thought
Mr.
would be-
Purcell has something to add.
Yeah, and just if I could finish my thought would
Yeah.
be to say they must perfect by the date that Mr. Sandusky approves the meets and bounds plus a number of days, basically either to prepare the deeds or to prepare the plat. And that's pretty straightforward, but maybe there's better alternatives. Jim?
Yeah, should I be sworn in or?
Yeah, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do. The pending part of the process that has not been completed is compliance. And compliance would be just Greg Sandusky finally signing off on the meets and bounds. Compliance normally does not have anything to do with recording of the subdivision. Once they get compliance, then they can go record the subdivision. So this is only about compliance. But I think it would be appropriate to say that that they need. I don't agree with Nathan. I'm sorry, Nathan. 1 week is not enough time. We need to know what Greg Sandusky's schedule is. For all we know, he's cruising on the Amazon. So I hadn't realized until just now that there was that issue. I have just emailed him and may know before the end of the evening what his ability to turn around a resubmission would be. But I would suggest that we give them 30 or 60 days to, in addition, not a week.
Well, that's 30 to 60 days after the resolution,
Yeah,
the adoption.
yeah.
No,
That would-
after, as
And I- but
Jerry said,
again-
after
No.
the perfection, after the,
No,
After
I mean,
compliance.
an extension of longer than that. But again, I think we should hear from the applicant and ask and see what they would like, what they think it would take.
Jim, before we do that, just and my thought of not picking dates, which is problematic here because we're not sure, to say when the meets and bounds are approved by Mr. Sandusky, they have X number of additional days, and that could be a short period of time.
Well, isn't that already written into MLUL? Once we approve and sign off on the subdivision, they have a certain amount of time already under MLUL to file the subdivision.
Well, what's a little tricky here, maybe not completely clear, is we've approved the subdivision, but now we have this slight wrinkle we have a meets and bounds description that hasn't been approved yet. So I would tie it into the meets and bounds, but let's see.
You've approved the subdivision subject to the condition that
Sure.
the meets and bounds be corrected.
That's correct.
Yeah. So that's the compliance issue. As soon as they have compliance, we sign off on it, and then they have a certain amount of time to file the subdivision, or it is moot under MLUL.
you guys are agreeing with each other.
Yeah,
Yep.
we are.
Mhm.
Pretty sure.
But I don't think that we should be giving them an extension of the approval to a point where it's filing. But Chris Tarr is their attorney. I'm sure that we can work this out. I just am trying to say that the only thing left is the final review of
Chris,
meets and bounds
you
to
wanna jump
reach
in?
compliance on this.
I'm sorry, Jim.
Mr. Tar?
Surely, thank you. First of all, Mr. Foote asked a couple of questions. When did we apply to the DOT? And the answer is after we got the municipal approval and the county approval, we began informal meetings with DOT, which is what they require. And only on April 9 of 2025 did they permit us to file the application, and it was down there for 13 months. So that's the answer to Mr. Foot's question. But I had the same thought that others did. The statute says that it must be recorded. So we're talking about the recording date. And not only could Mr. Sandusky be away or kick it back and forth a couple times, as has happened, then Ms. Wilson has to sign and the secretary has to stamp their names on the subdivision deed before we have to pick it up, get it down to Trenton, make sure it's in good form. So all we're asking for is, say, 45 days from the day that Ms. Wilson signs the deed and it's available for us to pick up, 30 days. But all of the action steps are in the municipality's hands, not the applicants.
Yep.
Chris, I mean, I take it you could do it in quite a bit less than 30 days.
I could, but you know, what if it gets bounced back because it's $1 short on the filing fee? I mean, do you really want us to come back? I mean,
No, I don't think anybody wants that.
So please, just give us a few days. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants this more than Mr. Watzko, who is here. I think he'll tell you he's been waiting a long time.
I've been waiting a very long time, and my neighbor, who's been unbelievably cooperative for 4.5 years in this process, he's retiring this week from Rutgers University and moving back to England. He has his house under contract contingent on me getting these deeds filed so that he can move on with his life. And I understand the statutory stuff that you're going through, but I just hope the planning board can see when Mr. Sandusky takes a look at this and gets we can exchange deeds and I can transact my business with Mr. Bryant so he can move on with his life. And that's what I'm hoping that can get accomplished as fast as possible.
And the idea with Chris for 30 days is you're actually going to try and do it as soon as you can.
Of course.
But if you need, if there's another wrinkle pops up, you want to have a little cushion to deal with it.
They pop up.
Yeah.
So the first number of days you threw out was 45. I'm completely comfortable with that. If you think 30 is better for some reason, I'm totally comfortable with that as well. I think it's important for us to impress upon Mr. Sandusky, which I think Mr. Purcell is on that, and maybe others as well.
Right. So, but again, in your practice, the board's practice, Madam Chair, is for you to sign the deed when it's done. And I'd like to measure from that point because Mr. Purcell could be on vacation, others could be on vacation. It's just,
okay.
I can't get that deed recorded until I have your signature on it.
Okay.
Okay, so this is going to be done, Chris, by filing a deeds, not the plat.
I can't speak to that.
Okay, either way,
she's got to sign it.
Sure.
The deed, there's a deed, so I think we're doing it by deed.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mueller, can you frame a motion for someone to?
Yes. It's basically to grant a further extension that will end within 45 days of the date that Mr. Sandusky approves the meets and bounds.
Or 45 days from the day that the planning board chair signs off on.
Oh, okay. Yes.
On the deeds.
Yes. Right. Yep.
I'm ready to move that.
I'll second it.
Okay. We lost Louise.
Take over, Owen.
All right.
We got the momentum. Don't
The motion has been moved by Nat Bottingheimer and seconded by David Cohen. Does this call for a roll call? Oh, Louise is back.
Sorry about that. my little, it looks like I have a strong signal, but obviously I didn't. So
It's been moved.
can
and
you repeat has somebody made a
Matt
motion based on
Bodenheimer has
Mr.
moved and David Cohen has seconded.
Okay. Deidre, would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Mr. Boddingheimer,
Yes.
Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Ms. Perlmutter,
Yes.
Ms. Swimmer,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Anderson,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And good luck.
Steve has his hand up.
Yeah, one question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Wasco, go
Just to
ahead.
ask if I can get update from Mr. Purcell when he hears from Mr. Sandusky. I have, of all the vendors in the world, I actually have a house mover who's honoring a price from 4.5 years ago. And the world of
Wow.
things getting expensive. They want to move my house this August, and as everyone knows, the world's gotten incredibly expensive, and I don't want to miss this opportunity. So if
Steve, I will keep you informed.
Okay.
If you recall, I was there right after Ida was.
No, you were.
And I can't imagine how painful this has been.
Absolutely, with people retiring all around. When Derek's first words to me when I first went to his office was, "They might be able to do a simple lot line adjustment here."
It was supposed to be simple, sir.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate everybody's help. Thank you.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Next up, we have an ordinance referral for master plan consistency. This is ordinance 2026-18, an ordinance of the municipality of Princeton pertaining to allowable business uses throughout the municipality and amending various provisions of the Code of the Borough of Princeton, New Jersey, 1974, and the Code of the Township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968, accordingly. Mr. Foote?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as been noted, the Princeton Council has referred ordinance number 2026-18 to the board for master plan consistency review. The ordinance was introduced on April 27th and is scheduled for a public hearing on May 11th, next Monday. The purpose of the changes proposed by the ordinance is to clarify and expand the permitted uses in the business or commercial districts of Princeton. No zones are being created or removed, and there are no rezonings proposed. So I'm going to summarize the contents of the ordinance based on my memo to the board dated May 4th. So first of all, in the RO Residence Office, NB Neighborhood Business, and CV Central Business Districts of the former borough, the ordinance adds the crafting or arrangement of materials resulting in a finished product or commodity such as apparel, home decoration, jewelry, toys, flowers, artwork, or similar products with floor area and story level limitations depending on the zone to the list of permitted uses. Any such activity associated with those uses or this use must be contained within the building. Next, the ordinance also clarifies that certain uses, specifically spas, tutoring, test prep, and fitness instruction, are in the list of permitted uses with floor area limitations in some of the zones in the following districts. And what I'll also note is that I listed those, the spas, tutoring, test prep, fitness instruction, but it's not those clarifying that those uses are permitted in all of the districts. If you look at the memo, it does break down which of those are being clarified in each of those zones. But the zones in question for that particular clarification are the RB Residence Business, the NB, the CB, the SB Service Business, and the MRRO Mixed Residential Retail Office districts of the former borough, as well as the B1 Business, B2 Business, SC Shopping Center, S1 Service, S2 Service, and RO Retail Office districts of the former township. Additionally, the ordinance will allow for medical and dental offices subject to certain limitations in the CB and SB districts of the former borough. Next, the ordinance will add offices for research, engineering, or development in science and technology, again, subject to floor area limitations in the CB, and SB districts of the former borough. The ordinance additionally will allow museums and similar cultural uses as a permitted use along with theaters in the CB district of the former borough. Next, the ordinance will permit offices on the first story of up to 1/3 of the floor space in the SB district of the former borough. And finally, the ordinance will add, quote, barbershops, beauty parlors, tailors, dressmakers, and millinery shops, photographic studios, shoe repair, shoe shine, and hat cleaning shops, spas and similar uses that do not require a medical or professional license, tutoring, test prep and similar uses, and studios for dancing, music, and fitness instruction to the permitted uses, and clarify that residential and non-residential uses must have separate independent entrances. And that's all that particular change is going to be for the POR, professional office residence districts of the former township. And then based on my review and my professional opinion, the ordinance is consistent with the master plan. First, the vision statement of the master plan includes that Princeton will be, quote, economically strong and adaptable, end quote. A land use goal of the plan is to, quote, provide greater opportunities for economic development by expanding permitted uses within the downtown, commercial, and mixed use districts that reflect the future direction of the market. Apologies. Additionally, one of the economic development goals is to, quote, strengthen Princeton's commercial and mixed use districts and maintain the municipality's position as a prestigious regional retail and dining destination. The proposed amendments clarify and add to the list of permitted uses in the commercial districts of the municipality, thereby ensuring more opportunities for economic development and strengthening the districts. And finally, another economic development goal is, quote, identify and develop new growth opportunities that will diversify Princeton's employment profile and insulate the municipality against the adverse effects of changing retail and office environments, end quote. The inclusion of research and development office uses in certain commercial districts assists in this goal. And in fact, the permitting the array of office uses that I've described and that are listed in the ordinance also assist in that goal. The board shall determine if they find the ordinance substantially consistent with the master plan and provide any comments to the council. Thank you, and Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. Questions from board members? That was a lot. I understand this arose, maybe not in its specifics, but then again, maybe so. After a study undertaken by a consultant to Experience Princeton, it is something that they've been interested in for some time. Jack Taylor?
Yeah, my general impression, it clearly is that this is consistent with the master plan on the one hand. On the other, what I'm wondering, can you explain to what extent actual market practice or actual market needs have given rise to the amendments proposed versus what appears to be best practice in communities across the states?
Okay. So I can't speak as far as what studies were undertaken specifically for this particular set of amendments. What I know at least, and I'll tag in Justin, Mr. Lesko, for additional background if that's what's being asked for. But this was undertaken with the, I'll say, assistance of Experience Princeton. And as far as what studies, what practices were looked at for this, that was something that they brought to us. We did review it internally with staff. Staff did review it. The Code Review Committee also reviewed it. The Code Review Committee of Council reviewed it and determined the best way to proceed.
If I could just jump in, it's a really good question, Jack. When I first started here in 2020, I remember doing some research on allowable uses and particularly experiential uses for before the Special Improvement District was even around. I think it was for the Economic Development Committee that council had appointed. So this idea has been out for a while, and it's based on feedback from the business owners of who they're hearing from, basically, and who's choosing to go to Somerville or Red Bank or Montclair instead of coming here, you know, with the uses being one of those reasons. That being said, we are doing the full code rewrite. And there were some requests at the beginning to kind of have a real paradigm shift in the way that we process business uses and define business uses and things like that. We decided not to go that way with the code rewrite coming up and with the amount of discussion we're going to have with members of the public, members of the business community, people who go to stores, things like that. So this is where we ended on as somewhat I don't want to say temporary relief, but some things that the business owners are saying could really help them now, or the property owners and the business owners could really help them now.
Justin, do we have any methodology, any practice within the community to monitor what we've just proposed? Obviously, we're interested in growth, and I would have preferred if we had a natural process, an evolving process of needs that gave rise to the solutions proposed. But I appreciate that it wasn't possible. Your comments are fair enough. That's a justification for what's been proposed, to be sure. How are we going to implement it is what this is all about, because the growth and development of Princeton is the methodology, the philosophy of the master plan, and all of us who live here, I think.
Yeah, I think the market is going to implement it. We're taking off, you know, gates that are regulating things that the market currently wants. I think is what we're hearing here. Experience Princeton, particularly under their new leadership, I think will be the ones to monitor and assess if this is working, if our overall business zoning is working for their needs, for the town's needs too in 2026. But right now it's really about taking away some of those regulations, or even just like Nathan said, clarifying some things. We just got an application earlier this week for a gym, you know, pretty simple, a small gym. We had to figure out where to put that, and much in the same that we did at the last place I worked, we put that under a dance studio. Because we don't have gyms right now or fitness instruction. So a lot of zoning is trying to fit things in the closest category of when the uses were created. In the case of our borough and township, I think that's 68 and 74. So you could imagine the changing uses since then. So that's really the way in which we as a municipality are not necessarily the marketers or drawing businesses in, but we're trying to get rid of the things that prevent them from coming in.
Taking down barriers. It's a good way to look at it. Mr. Cohen, Councilman Cohen?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a word or
David, you have
two.
your hand up?
Can you hear me? I'm speaking. I am
Yes.
unmuted.
I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Okay. I'm asking mostly for Louise because she's breaking up a little bit and I thought maybe she couldn't hear me.
I can hear you.
Anyway, you know, I wanted to Jack's question, point out that there was sort of a two-part intention here. One was to allow uses which weren't currently allowed, which are a result of changing forces in the market. So for instance, these experiential uses that Justin referred to, these are things that are doing well in an internet retail environment. Things that like going and making pottery or learning how to do leather work at an establishment that may then also sell those items. That's something you can't get online. And so these are some of the business models that we're hearing from the business community. There's a lot of interest in implementing those. So that was one piece of it. And another piece of it was really more clarifying things that we were allowing under our current code, but that the Experience Princeton community wanted to have in writing in the code that it was allowed, rather than just a zoning officer's interpretation that it was allowed under the existing, because that's seen as a barrier to entry for small businesses. If they actually have to feel like they have to hire a lawyer and they have to come and meet with staff to figure out whether what they want to do is even permitted, it's raising the bar, to entry. And so part of what this is intended to do is really just clarify stuff that was already being permitted, but to make the information that it was permitted more accessible to small startup businesses. So those were the two categories I would say that these changes fall into.
That's really helpful, David. Just one more question, observation. Is there someone within the governance process of the municipality who's responsible for developing business, monitoring how things are going, and keeping us informed with respect to what we put in place and how well and effective is it working? That would be normal in many communities. Is it part of our governance in Princeton? I think that's a basic question.
I do not believe we have a staff member. We have two members of the governing body who are on the board of Experience Princeton, and I think they kind of serve that role, but it's not a bad idea. I know other towns like Somerville have benefited greatly from having that. But right now, actually, let me correct that. Experience Princeton has an executive director who does exactly that, but she's not an employee of the municipality. She's an employee of the Special Improvement District.
Sounds like a position the planning department would love to have.
Put a pin in that. Ms. Wilson Anderson?
Thank you. I think the update does align with the concept of the master plan and growth in Princeton, retail growth and vibrancy of the retail center. But I guess I just want to confirm that there are no changes right now in zoning, and there are no changes in the impact that some of these businesses that maybe before this haven't been allowed in certain areas. And one particular example I'm thinking of is the small scale coffee roastery, which was an issue. And I know there were some concerns about the impact of that kind of a business. And I assume that would fall generally under, I guess it's the crafting or arrangement of materials part of the ordinance. But we still have the impact questions about how that impacts the businesses and the residential uses in the area. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Justin, if you wanted to.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to jump in. I don't think these changes would actually affect that one specific case. That was ultimately a zoning officer decision where the roasting was considered manufacturing and that wasn't allowed. In this case, specifically the small scale manufacturing, I really liken it to kind of like an Etsy store or some of the experiential examples that Councilman Cohen mentioned before. So I think that's slightly different than the coffee roasting. That being said, nuisance factors would not be allowed, whether it's noise, smell, different things like that that would affect neighboring properties. And the zoning is not changing in terms of the lines where zones are or anything like that, but there are a few changes in this ordinance that would allow different uses elsewhere. As were mentioned, clearing up that or allowing small retail or offices within retail. That's kind of the Warby Parker example that had to go to the zoning board for use variance a few years ago, or the one change in the POR district to allow for barbershops and the like, where currently it's mostly professional offices. And that's across from the shopping center and down near the intersection of North Harrison Street and Franklin. So those are just two examples. I think of maybe the 3 or 4 that actually do change the zoning compared to the ones that Councilman or what's allowed in the zoning, I should say, compared to what Councilman Cohen correctly mentioned was clarifications for other things.
I guess in my example, I'm just wondering whether there could be a dispute about what something like crafting or arrangement of materials means, and are we prepared then to rein that in to something that may include an interpretation that we weren't anticipating.
Mm-hmm.
It's
possible.
I just want to, underscore what Dustin said about nuisance factors. This was something that was discussed quite extensively in crafting this ordinance, was, whether to allow stuff like that. And it seemed like the best way to resolve it, resolve the debate, was to say that uses which might otherwise fall within the permitted uses, but which have nuisance factors, whether it's noise or odors or whatnot, would still not be permitted. And so that's why, obviously it doesn't, it's not the dream that Experience Princeton has, where everything is super clear and before you even come in what's going to be allowed. There is still going to be some discretion around those kinds of issues. But we do think that we did significantly broaden the playing field with the changes we did make. Yeah.
Yep. And ultimately, those things all happen today with our definitions. They'll happen after this. They'll happen with ones that aren't being changed by this. They'll probably happen even after our zoning code rewrite. I think that's just the nature of land use, where we can't account for everything. But there are ultimately the zoning officer is the arbiter of that. And then there are ways that an applicant could either directly appeal their decision to the zoning board, or obviously ask for a zoning variance as well.
Good. Thanks for that question, Claudia. That was a good thing or set of things to put on the record. Other questions or comments? We typically do take public comment, not as testimony, because testimony takes place on an ordinance in front of council, not before the planning board. But if anyone who is attending, and there are 31 people in the attendees room, would like to address the board about this matter, this ordinance referral, and the question of consistency with the master plan, now is the time to raise your hand. I see one hand has gone up. Mr. Bunting, and somebody bring him over, please. And then Mr. Muller, swear Sam Bunting in.
Yes, if you could raise your right hand.
I don't think oh, there we go. Yeah,
Can you
sorry.
unmute yourself? Do you swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
So sworn or affirms. Steve, please state your full name and spell your last name.
Samuel Bunting, Bunting.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Go right ahead.
I just want to say it seems like a weak sauce ordinance and should have gone further. Missed opportunity.
Anything else?
That's a great comment to bring to council.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make light of your comment. Is that you've muted yourself, so it sounds like that's what you have to say, right? Okay, thank you for that. And yes, a worthy thought to take to council when it considers this ordinance. Thank you. Other questions from members of the public or comments? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and invite any additional questions or comments from the board or a motion if someone would like to frame one? A motion might be a finding that this ordinance is consistent with the master plan and that the board recommends its approval. I saw your hand starting to go up, Mr. O'Donnell.
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Moved by Mr. O'Donnell, seconded by Linda Schwimmer. Deidre, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Boddingheimer,
Yes.
Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Ms. Perlmutter,
Yes.
Ms. Swimmer,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Anderson,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next up, we have an application. This is from Toll NJ1 LLC, a preliminary and final major site development approval. This has been carried from April 9th. The address is 29 Thanet Circle, Block 5502, Lot 5, Zone AH14. And this is file number P2525-712P. Nathan Foote, you want to get us started here? And then I will ask also any of our other professionals whether there's anything that they want to flag before we hear from the applicant, because I'm sure that we'll have a lot of.
Louise, should I swear in all our professionals at the same time?
She's frozen.
Looks like we lost her.
Looks like she's frozen again. Yes, Jerry, please swear in all of our professionals.
Any professionals here or may
I'm
not?
back. I'm back.
I'm going to swear in all of our professionals at this point, Louise.
Yep.
Okay. If you could raise your right hand, and that would be Nathan, Mr. Jelinek,
Victor Anasike, Joe Scopian, Dan Dobromelski, Taylor Gribben.
Joe
Okay.
Scopian.
Do you swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give be the truth?
I do.
I do.
No, sworn or affirmed, and Jim has identified who just swore or affirmed.
Yes, I do.
And I guess I should let the record reflect that I probably should have been sworn in at the beginning. So could that be a retroactive swearing in?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then did you want us to get everybody's names on the record?
Jim basically already has done.
Okay.
So that's sufficient.
Okay, very good. All right, then I guess I'll get started as requested by the chair. Toll NJ1 has, let me just get set up here. All right. Apologies, I thought I had this set up already. Okay. All right, so Toll NJ1 LLC has filed this application for preliminary and final major site development approval to remove the existing improvements on the subject property and redevelop it with a residential townhouse development consisting of 85 units, including 17 affordable units. The development is part of Princeton's fourth round fair share plan, in which the intent is to provide 17 affordable units at this location. I am going to pull up the overhead image. There we go. All right.
And we'll mark that Nathan as, whoops, is that a different image?
Yes, well, this is, yeah, so this is a different image from the one before.
Okay, the first one, do you want to go back to that or you want to treat this as?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you were, no, that first image that I had pulled up, that was separate. That was not for this application.
I see. Okay, fine. This will be the first one. Okay.
Okay, so this will be PB1.
Yep.
So this is an overhead image of the subject property along with the surrounding area, prepared by the NJ Parcel Explorer website, prepared by Rowan University. And as with the previous image that we had for the Wascow extension application, this has the property lines and identifies the roads as well. So as can be seen here, you can kind of make it out. It's highlighted in blue. It is an irregularly shaped lot identified as 29 Thanet Circle and is block 5502 lot 5 in the municipality's tax maps. The property has frontage along Thanet Circle, although a portion of the lot, should be mentioned, stretches along the Thanet Circle frontage down towards Terhune Road, as can be seen here. It is currently developed with a multi-story masonry building that you can see towards the rear center of the property. This masonry building was previously utilized as an office building, but is currently vacant. The property is also developed with access drives off of Thanet Circle, as well as parking lots to the front and rear of that existing masonry building. The property is located in the AH14 Affordable Housing 14 zone, which was established in 2025, that is last year, and amended earlier this year. The property is adjacent to the IRA Inclusionary Rental Apartment District, which is developed with the Avalon Princeton Circle apartment buildings over here. It is also next to the RSA Residential Senior Affordable District, which is developed with the Princeton the Princeton Senior Living Affordable Apartment Building. The Governor's Lane multifamily housing neighborhood, which is located in the OR2 district of the former township, is located to the east and north of the site. Several single-family houses fronting Terhune Road, located in the R5 district, are to the immediate south of the bulk of the property. All right, I'm going to stop sharing there. It gives a brief orientation to the site. The applicant does propose to...
Nathan, could you go back just a quick moment to the picture?
Sure.
I'd like to raise an issue for you to comment on, which I think is relevant.
Okay.
Although I'm a regular driver on Terhune, I've done it 100 times. I've driven by this site so many times I can't count. And what I never really focused on is Harry's Brook. And this morning when I took a walk and included walking through the woods, I was absolutely amazed at Harry's Brook, how wide it was at the very top, how deep it was, how wet it was in places. And not only that, but let's call it a tributary, the location of the tributary that's referred to, which is literally in the front steps of the building that's about to be constructed. So could you show on the map where is Harry's Brook and where is the tributary? Because I think given the stormwater management plan and related issues, we need to know that.
Certainly. So I can't identify Harry's Brook on this overhead image, but I will point out the tributary that Mr. Taylor has noted. That runs roughly where the cursor is moving right now. And as mentioned by Mr. Taylor, it does go in front of the existing building. There is, I should say, I don't have it marked in my presentation, but it was noted in the memo that there are a number of easements on the site, several conservation easements included in that, which does include that tributary. Both this portion here on the north side of the property that the tributary runs through, and then also through, as said, in front of the building, and then over through to the south side of the property. So that's the tributary that runs through it. Harry's Brook, what I might do is just defer to the applicant to show that on their. I believe that they would be showing that in their presentation. I will also note that both Mr. Purcell, our acting land use engineer, who's already spoken before on the Wasco application, as well as our stormwater management consulting engineer, he is also on this call, on this hearing to provide feedback and testimony.
Yeah, Nathan, if I can clarify for
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, there is a tributary to the Harry's Brook tributary that runs through the site from the northwest to the southeast. And that thin line that you see just below the property, do you see the thin line, Nathan, where you're, right there.
Right there.
That is the center line of Harry's Brook Tributary 1. Or is it Branch 1? Joe, help me out. Joe Scupian.
Actually, that is officially Harry's Brook Branch 2.
Branch 2. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. There are two branches to Harry's Brook. One comes out of the Princeton Shopping Center, goes through Grover Park, and that is Branch 1. This is Branch 2.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Joe. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop sharing that again.
And Jack, I know there will be a lot of testimony tonight on stormwater management considerations. No question about that, both from the applicant and from our own staff and consulting stormwater engineer.
Thank you, Louise.
That's right. Yep, absolutely. So then, and that obviously is going to be a big consideration. It has been a big consideration already with this application. So, let the applicant speak to what they are proposing, and then the Jim and Mr. Purcell and Mr. Scupian will provide their testimony as well. So the applicant does propose to demolish and remove the existing improvements on the property and construct 10 residential buildings labeled A through J on the plans. All units will have HVAC, and there will be an exterior condenser unit for each residence outside of their building. The architectural plan submitted for review only includes schematic design, elevations, and floor plans for 3 buildings, including buildings G and H, which house the affordable units, and what appears to be the 14-unit market rate building. The facade treatments of all the buildings in the plans include brick, horizontal siding, and cementitious panels. Metal awnings are proposed over front entrances, and balconies are proposed on the rear facades. Access to and from the site is provided by 2 two-way driveways off of Thanet Circle. Drive aisles are provided to the rear of the 10 proposed buildings in order to provide access to the garages. According to the site plan, there will be 146 parking spaces provided in garages and 40 surface parking spaces. The applicant proposes 2 external bike racks, which provide 18 bike parking spaces each for a total of 36. The site plan notes that there is internal bike parking for each residential unit. The applicant proposes a monument sign next to the southern driveway. The sign is designed with an over 8-foot column base from which a projecting sign of 10 square feet is hung. Applicant proposes to remove 180 existing trees and proposes to plant a total of 199 trees, at least according to one of the tables in the site plan. And I'll get to that. That's a comment of ours in a moment. The new trees include 53 shade trees, including 4 in the bioretention basin, 41 ornamental trees, and 105 evergreen trees. Applicant also proposes 68 evergreen shrubs and 323 deciduous shrubs, including 105 in the bioretention basin. The site plan indicates NJBMP standard basin planting design for the bioretention basin, and typical foundation plantings are also identified on the site plan. There's obviously a lot more detail than that in both the memo, and I'm sure the applicant will provide additional details on the architectural plans and other elements of the site plan. I do want to raise several of the issues that were raised in my memo. Those are on pages 5 through 9. I'm not going to hit all of them, but I do want to highlight quite a few of them for further comment and discussion from the applicant. Number one, the distribution of very low, low, and moderate income affordable units. Number two, the location of the units on the site, including the desirability of the location where the affordable units are located. How the affordable units are stacked townhouse units. Bedroom size compliance with uniform housing affordability control standards. Applicant should confirm that the facade treatments and floor plans for the remaining 7 market rate buildings that are not shown in the architectural plans will be the same as those shown in the architectural plans submitted for the board's review. Recommended that the applicant submit architectural plans showing all proposed buildings for approval and signature during resolution compliance. Applicant should testify as to how and why the internal arrangement of the affordable units was created. Applicant should discuss alternative arrangements to provide easier access to the trash and recycling storage areas for the 7 affordable units that do not have internal access to their designated areas. It is recommended that designated surface parking spaces be provided for the affordable units that do not have garages. A detail of the proposed exterior bike rack is provided on sheet 24 of the site plan set. It is, however, unclear how 18 bikes will be parked at that rack. That should be addressed. Applicant should address if there is enough surface parking toward the front of the site as compared to the rear, especially for visitors to the site. The visitors of residents living there. Applicant should explore a pedestrian passageway to Governor's Lane and/or Avalon Princeton Circle. Discrepancies in the removed and replacement tree table should be addressed by the applicant with confirmation that 204 trees will be provided. The site plan on sheet 17 identified typical planting designs around the buildings. Applicant should clarify how these would be modified for the different buildings. We're almost there. The choice to use individual trash and recycling bins instead of community dumpsters leads to a trash and recycling truck moving through the site and collecting 85 individual bins. Is the applicant utilizing a private or a public hauler? Have they discussed trash pickup arrangements with that hauler? And what will be the frequency of the pickups? And finally, the applicant and the professional should address the issues brought up in these 6 other memos provided by the board's professionals and municipal agencies. I know that Chair Wilson has asked that the other professionals on the call provide any highlights of their memos, so I'll leave it to them to make any comments that they need to at this juncture. As I noted, there are other issues brought up in my May 4th memo. Sorry, my May 1st memo, but I will leave those for additional discussion if needed later on during this hearing. And with that, thank you, and I'll turn it back over to the chair or the other professionals as needed.
Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, I'm just as far as other professionals, I'm offering the opportunity for people to weigh in with any matters that they consider real red flags, because I know the applicant will address the comments in each of these. Just wondering whether any of them are sort of head and shoulders above others that are cause of particular concern that the board should know about, even, going in. Jim Purcell?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm happy to summarize our concerns in our memo. I will not be as detailed as Mr. Foote was in describing the project, but we do have a couple of concerns that need to be addressed, and we hope that this evening the applicant will provide some answers to some of these questions. One of the comments that you will see is related to surface water drainage, and it was noted in the report from Mr. Scupian that the bioretention basin will be treating 1.9 acres of the property and will further convey an additional 0.8 acres of the property that will have been treated by the porous pavement systems, and that we were going to request clarification from NJDEP as to whether the 0.2 acre exceedance in drainage area above the maximum 2.5 acre drainage area limit for small scale green infrastructure is acceptable. We have since gotten clarification from actually the applicant that we were misinterpreting the definition of the 2.5 acre drainage area limit, and that the area of the basin itself should not be included in that number. And they are actually in compliance with the 2.5 acre drainage area limit. So that is a comment that can be ignored. We do need a stormwater management facilities operation and maintenance manual, which is typically required to be filed with the, normally it's filed with the application, but can be filed after the fact with the municipality. We have a bit of a concern about pedestrian and bicycle safety. The parking, the playground is on the opposite side of a parking area and a circulation drive. And we would like them to address how children are safely going to access the playground. We also would like to see a little bit more discussion about bicycle safety and circulation and how this development connects to the municipal bicycle network in a safe manner. Thanet Circle is a bicycle boulevard that connects to Terhune Road, and the bicycle boulevard continues on Grover Avenue, and it is a circular element of our bicycle network that traverses the entire municipality. So some discussion on that would be helpful. The on-site parking and circulation issues that we have identified are related mostly to how the affordable units are afforded parking, since they will not have garage parking as the market rate units will. Accessible parking spaces don't seem to comply with the spirit of the Americans with Disabilities Act, Section 208.3, in terms of the location in the shortest, most accessible route. And we also have some concern about the distribution of short-term bicycle parking, and would like a better illustration of long-term bicycle parking. I did summarize our comments in terms of what we would like to see for conditions of approval in the memo. And one other comment that's important is related to Harry's Brook. And that tributary to Harry's Brook is a sensitive waterway that does traverse their property. And we would have concern about protecting it during construction and not just post-construction. So I'd like to hear some comments on that. And that's, I think I encapsulated all of the engineering comments.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments from Victor Anosike or Dan Dobromilski, or who am I leaving out?
Joe Scoopy, but I think I covered.
Joe? Yeah, right.
I don't
at this time
have any. Oh, Dan, go ahead.
No, I just said this is Dan Dobromilski. I don't have anything to add at this time. Like you said, we'll wait the applicant's testimony.
Okay, I did note that between your memo, Dan, and the Shade Tree Committee memo, there was a discrepancy in the number of replacement trees that was
Yes, yeah, I tried to clarify that
calculated.
in my report, but I think let's see if the applicant has even more update on that or not.
Okay. I'm sorry, Victor.
Yeah, I was going to say that from a traffic perspective, vehicular traffic, I didn't find that there will be any issues just because of the amount of traffic that the site will generate. However, I did make similar or even identical comments that Jim just talked about regarding bicycle and pedestrian circulation within the site. It appears that's enough parking, but the distribution of the parking, the locations are not equitable to the buildings. Same thing with the bikes. Short-term parkings for bikes are located far away from the buildings. And just like Jim also noted, I also found that there's a parking very close to the playground, bicycle parking. So there's going to be a lot of pedestrian interaction there. I'd like to hear a little bit more from the applicant about what they envisage about circulation-wise and the distribution of bike parking and vehicle parking too. Other than that, traffic-wise, operational-wise, in terms of level of service and delays and all that, there shouldn't be an issue. But pedestrian and bicycle is a concern. This is the way it's laid out now.
Okay. Thank you. Jim Purcell, your hand is still up. Is that intentional? Did you want to circle back? No.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Madam Chair.
Fine. Mr. Scupion.
Yeah, I just Jim was very professional in saying that we misinterpreted. It's not we, it's me. I missed the definitions of the distinctions between drainage area and contributory drainage area in the stormwater rules and in the ordinance. And so that Jim very nicely deflected that, but yeah, and I want to thank the folks at the over at Dynamic Engineering, the applicant's engineer, for pointing that out. And everyone will be happy to hear tonight that took down a red flag instead of raising one. Thank you.
Good. Ms. Griffin.
Good evening. I would just like to comment from a zoning perspective that this is a compliant application in terms of zoning.
Got it. Thank you for that. So are we ready to hear from the applicant, who is here on behalf of? Is that you, Mr. Tar?
Yes, ma'am.
Take it away.
Thank you. We're delighted to be here. There's a reference in Mr. Foot's memo to the compliance with the master plan. I think it's particularly appropriate to point out that this property was referred to specifically in the 2019 master plan. I'll quote it to say 29 Thanet is intended for residential redevelopment. And that's what happened. And it is a fourth round property. Affordable housing property, an important piece of the total number of units that the town is to provide. We have 5 witnesses. The first is the representative of Toll, who's overall responsible for applications such as this, and give us a quick overview, but he'll be available to answer questions on behalf of Toll throughout the evening. Then the site civil planning engineer will testify as to all site civil matters, the traffic engineer, the architect, and finally the planner will concentrate primarily on affordable housing issues. We'll have them sworn and qualified one by one. We have a deck of slides, approximately 40 in number, and I'd ask that that deck be marked as applicant 1 or A1.
Will do. Thank you.
Then with that, we're going to bring up the slides and introduce to you Alex Chadalal.
Chris, what we traditionally do is just we swear all the applicants' witnesses in at the same time, just for efficiency.
I know that, but in this case, it just struck me as inefficient if it's all right, because I've got to qualify them as well.
Well, I know that. Madam Chair, how would you like to handle it?
I'm happy to go piecemeal, as Mr. Char suggests. They will all need to be qualified, so we'll just, that's fine with me.
And then,
So Alex could be sworn in.
Do you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give be the truth?
Yes.
So sworn or affirmed?
Mr. Chadalal is offered as a fact witness, not as an expert, so I'm not going to qualify him as such. But Alex, your title at Toll is Senior Land Entitlement Manager,
Correct.
and you're responsible to supervise applications such as this one.
Yes.
You're also going to run the slides, which is a tough job, so you're going to bring it on up.
Yeah, we're gonna share the responsibility a little bit with the slides here, and just for a quick heads up for everyone. Typically, we're used to doing this on a PowerPoint, but because of the size of the plans and zooming in and out, we've elected to put it in a PDF format. But it won't take away from any of the material that you'll see here tonight. I don't know if you need to qualify me anymore, Chris, or for
You're up.
Okay. First, I'd just like to say good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, members of the public. Again, my name is Alex Shothwal. I'm a Senior Entitlements Manager with Toll Brothers, and I'd like to just give a brief background on the proposed project, the collaborative process that brought us here, and the overall intent behind the development before turning the presentation back over to Chris Tarr and the rest of our professionals. I'd like to start by sincerely just thanking the township, their consultants, for the significant time and coordination and effort that it took to advance this application to tonight's hearing. The plan before you this evening is the result of extensive analysis, coordination, and refinement. Throughout the design process, this concept plan evolved through more than 10 to 15 iterations to ensure the project was carefully planned in a manner that, with the surrounding areas, which is sensitive with the environmental constraints on this site. Particular attention was given to the building orientation, the circulation pattern, streetscape design, and placement of the affordable housing units, all of which proved to be especially challenging given the environmental constraints of the property. This application is also the product of extensive collaboration with the municipality over a year through numerous meetings, work sessions. This property was ultimately incorporated into the municipal's Round 4 affordable housing plan as part of the township's effort to satisfy the affordable housing obligation. The zoning ordinance governing this property, designated as AH14 zone district, was specifically crafted for this development and is fully consistent with the adopted affordable housing plan. The ordinance permits a total of 68 for sale market rate units and 17 for sale affordable housing units. This evening, our professional team will walk the board through engineering detail, architectural design, planning considerations, and the project overall compliance with the town's zoning and affordable housing objectives. We appreciate the board's time and consideration this evening, and we look forward to presenting this application. Chris, I'll turn it back over to you and the professionals at this point.
Thanks, Alex. And bring the slides up and we'll get Dan moving.
Sure. Dan, I think you were going to bring up the slides and just take control of it on your end, so you're more than welcome to do that.
That's great.
Will do. I appreciate it.
And then, sorry, just to jump, this seems like a good point to jump in and just ask that a copy of the slide deck be provided to the planning office at your earliest convenience, just for our records.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, thank you.
So Dan, we're going to have you sworn and
my pleasure.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give be the truth?
I do.
So sworn or affirmed?
Thank you.
So Daniel, you are a professional engineer licensed in New Jersey.
Yes, I am.
You're senior principal at Dynamic Engineering Consultants.
Yeah.
And I thought a particularly relevant qualification, you did the engineering work for the Avalon Bay facility across the street.
Yes, I was heavily involved in all of the design and entitlements associated with that project. I just was not available for the night of the hearing, so I did not actually do the testimony.
Sometimes that's a blessing, but in this case, we're glad you're here. Madam Chair, with that particular qualification, we'd offer Dan up as an expert in site civil engineering.
We accept your qualifications. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening again, Madam Chair, members of the board. As you heard, Daniel Chanel, principal of the firm Dynamic Engineering, civil engineer on behalf of the applicant. So with that, I'll take an opportunity to share my screen, and I just want to preface that by saying that unless I otherwise say differently, anything that I show this evening will be within that slideshow or that deck of exhibits that Alex just mentioned.
As you're bringing it up, I'll remind you and the others that we like to refer to each slide number as you're talking to it. And that way, going back through the record, we'll be able to know what you were looking at when you were talking.
Understood. Well, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what slide number this is, but this is an aerial plan exhibit, essentially showing the existing conditions of the subject site and the surrounding area. It's more or less identical to the aerial map that's included in the site plan set in conjunction with this application. It is identified as aerial map exhibit with the date of today's date, May 7th, 2026. Just for orientation purposes, north is considered to the top left-hand corner of the page. The subject site itself is identified in the center of the site, the regular shaped lot that you heard about already, in yellow, the bold yellow line with a Thanet circle at the bottom of the page. So you've already had an opportunity to kind of hear about the surrounding neighborhood, the zoning, so I'll bypass that information. But the site itself is just over just under 9.25 acres in size. The unnamed tributary, as you heard, kind of goes from a northern direction to a southern direction, where it connects into the Harry's Brook tributary branch 2, which runs on the easterly property line of the subject site. Thanet Circle makes up the main site frontage. Thanet Circle is a cul-de-sac with 2 travel lanes, plus bike sharrows under the jurisdiction of Princeton with a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. The site has a very minor frontage also on Terhune Road, which also has 2 travel lanes in either direction under local jurisdiction with a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit.
I'm sorry to break in and interrupt, but you noted that Harry's Brook runs on the easterly side of the property, but I think you mean the southern part of the property. Do you not?
Yeah, southeasterly.
It runs east or west to east, roughly, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
west to east, correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the southeasterly property line. You have northeasterly at the top. We're skewed a little bit with the page being oriented in that direction, but you're
all right. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the flow, so to speak.
If anybody has questions, feel free to interrupt me. I do not mind. So access to the site is currently provided via 2 full movement driveways, one of which are the northern end of the Thanet Circle frontage, the other of which is covered by this tree canopy here, opposite of a couple of these townhomes for the Avalon Bay development. Pedestrian access, there is a sidewalk along Thanet Circle, which provides pedestrian access through the site. Site currently has a vacant multi-story masonry office building with a footprint that's just over 30,000 square feet. And there's an associated parking area for about 190 vehicles. There are 2 on-site bridges, which I'll detail, one of which is located on more the southern side of the existing office building that is for vehicles. And then right in front of the existing office building, there is also a pedestrian bridge, which provides access over the top of that tributary that goes through the center of the site. The front and rear of the site are moderately sloped towards that brook. So the highest point of the site is along the rear property line that is up along Governor's Lane. That's about 20 feet higher than the low point of the bridge that crosses the brook. And then along Thanet Circle, that's about 10 feet higher than this bridge. So the site's almost shaped like a funnel. All the stormwater goes towards the center of the site where it's collected by various existing inlets and conveyed to an existing detention basin. There's an above-ground detention basin located in the easterly corner of the site, which captures the majority of the stormwater runoff that's generated by the site. It holds that water back, it detains it, and releases it at a controlled rate back to the tributary to the Harries Brook tributary. It's a mouthful. So there is existing stormwater management infrastructure on this site that captures and detains that stormwater that's generated currently. We did prepare a phase 1 environmental site assessment here. No areas of concerns were identified. We also have a wetlands LOI from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. There are some wetlands on the subject site, which essentially runs adjacent to the tributary going through the center of the site. Those wetlands have a 50-foot riparian buffer, which are largely contained within the conservation easements associated with this site, which I'll get to shortly. We also have a FHA, flood hazard area verification from the DEP. So the stream that goes through the center of the site, as well as the Harries Brook tributary, both have associated flood hazard areas, and which have been detailed by our office and verified by the DEP. Those flood hazard areas are 100% contained within the conservation easements that I'll mention shortly on the site. And also the stream that goes through the center of the site holds the entire flood hazard elevation as well. It doesn't overtop the banks of this stream. So heavy flooding events is fully contained within that stream going through the center of the site, no flooding concerns, which again, verified by the DEP. That stream going through the center of the site also has a 50-foot riparian buffer associated with it. We have to make sure that even if there's existing disturbance within 25 feet of the top of the stream bank, it needs to be restored back to a natural condition. Luckily, in this case, there's only a little bit of that happening. So we do have some restorative measures associated with the riparian buffer for that stream. Endangered species, there was none identified, which was also confirmed by a natural heritage letter from the DEP from August of 2024, confirming the same. And as I mentioned, there's a couple easements that are located throughout the site. There are 3 conservation easements. The conservation easements essentially flank the southern and northern sides of the property. Really, anywhere you see dense wooded areas, those are conservation easements, and that is where the environmentally sensitive areas of the site are. So that'll contain all of our wetlands, that contains our flood hazard area. Even the green space in between the parking lot and the existing office building is an existing conservation area, meaning we cannot touch it. It's deed restricted. We have to make sure that all of our proposed development is outside of that deed restricted conservation easement. Then there's several utility easements located throughout the site, some of which belonging to the municipality, some of which belonging to PSE&G, but none of which will have impacts to the proposed development. As you've heard, the site was previously located within the OR-2T zone, the office research zone, and it has been rezoned to the affordable housing AH14 zone, where stacked home developments are a permitted use. So with that being said, I'll take a moment to switch over to my next exhibit unless anybody has any specific questions about the existing conditions.
And that was slide 1. We'll call this one slide 2.
This will be slide 2. This is titled Overall Site Plan Rendering. This is also dated May 7th, 2026. And all this is a colorized version of our overall site plan, which is sheet number 6 within our site plan set. Orientation remains the same. You have that circle at the bottom of the page, and then the darker shaded green areas will be the limits of the site in question. The brown or tan colors are proposed buildings. The dark gray would be pavement, and green space, again, obviously a landscaped area. So under proposed conditions, we are seeking approval to demolish the existing improvements associated with the office building for the construction of 10 stacked townhome buildings, which will include 2 affordable buildings. In total, we're looking at 85 total units, 68 of which will be market rate, 17 will be affordable. All of these buildings are alley-loaded products. This means that anywhere that you see the building fronting on a paved surface, there is an apron providing access to garages that are located underneath or on the first level of each of the proposed buildings. Every single market rate unit has a tandem garage. Essentially what this means is it is a garage that fits 2 cars, one parked in front of the other. And then the COA units, or the affordable homes, have 10 single car garages. And again, you heard that there will be 17 affordable, so 7 of which of those units will not have a dedicated garage, but there will be dedicated parking spaces for them, which I'll detail a little bit further shortly. So walking around the site, starting at the southernmost portion of the site, there are 2 buildings proposed. These are buildings labeled A and B. Both of them are identical, just mirrored. They will have 4 market rate units each within them, and then each building will have 4 2-car tandem garage spaces. So there's 28 parking spaces associated within these 2 buildings. Each one of these buildings has a footprint of just under 8,000 square feet. Moving to the right-hand side of the page, or I'm sorry, left-hand side of the page would be Building C we have identified. This fronts on Thanet. So the front entrance, pedestrian entrance, will be fronting on Thanet. The rear of the building will be where you have your garage entrances. 14 units in there, and again, each one of those units has a 2-car garage and a footprint of just below 8,000 square feet. I'm sorry, building A and B has a footprint of just over 2,000 square feet, 2,300. Next building directly to the northeast of Building C is identified as Building D. 12 units in there, all market rate. Again, each one of those has a 2-car garage in this alley and a footprint of just over 6,700 square feet. Moving further to the northeast along the site and crossing the unnamed tributary, you have buildings E and F. Both of those are identical. Those will have 6 units in them each, with the 6 tandem garages with a footprint of just under 3,500 square feet. Building G and Building H, those are affordable buildings. Building H will have 7 COA units and 4 1-car garages with a 4,300 square foot footprint. And then Building H will have 7 COA units with 4 1-car garages. I'm sorry, Building G has 10 COA units and 6 1-car garages. Get my numbers mixed up. Moving a little bit further to the northeast, Building I, which is the same exact building as footprint as Building D, which is at the frontage of the site. So again, 12 units with 12 tandem garages. And then finally, to the northern corner of the site, we have Building J, 10 market rate units with the 10 garages on the bottom floor. The market rate buildings are 4 stories and have a height of 44.5 feet above the finished floor of the building. And the COA units are 3 stories. Affordable units are 3-story buildings and have a height of about 36 feet above the finished floor elevation. Based upon the municipality's definition of building height, Building D is going to be our highest proposed building. From the existing grade measured around the perimeter of the building, we're looking at a height of 46.1 feet, which is still below the compliant 50-foot maximum height for this zone. Moving on back to access. Access to the site remains exactly the same as you see it today. We'll still have the 2 full movement driveways in the same location that they're located today. Both of those have curb cuts about 75 feet in width, 75 to 80 feet width, with a drive aisle width of 24 feet, which is adequate and compliant for 2-way circulation. Also important to note, for talking about access, that we are proposing some improvements to Thanet Circle itself. At the intersection of Thanet Circle and Terhune Road, we will be proposing a boulevard-style entrance to the entrance of Thanet Circle. So boulevard-style entrance is essentially 2 lanes, one being inbound to the circle, one being outbound. Each one of those lanes will be 12 feet in width, but there will be a center 4-foot wide landscaped median in the center. This conservatively applies to the residential site improvement requirements, where that you need to have 2 forms of egress from a residential community, and essentially this will comply or apply to the entire residential nature of Thanet Circle. But also serves as a very nice aesthetic improvement, adds some green space and provides a nice residential style to the community as you enter off of Terhune Road to the residential nature of Thanet Circle. It does require a little bit of widening of Thanet Circle. We have to widen the roadway to curb line about 1 foot on either side. But we do have that nice green strip that goes down the center to add some greenery and landscaping improvements as you enter the community. Once you get onto the site, circulation again is provided via 2-way 24-foot wide drive aisle throughout the entire site. The only place where you do not have 24 feet is once we get to the existing vehicle bridge. This bridge is just under 20 feet in width. However, it is still adequate enough for two-way traffic. For two-way traffic, you need a minimum of 18. We're just under 20, so you're still able to get two-way traffic in there. The intent is to maintain the existing vehicle bridge as well as the existing pedestrian bridge located directly to the northwest of it. Both of those bridges were evaluated by a structural engineer, and they were identified as in safe and working order. We are potentially replacing the pedestrian bridge with a new one, but the proposal would be to just resurface the existing vehicle bridge. Other than that, the rest of the site, you have 24 feet in width. We'll have granite block curbing, full height curbing, where anywhere around the site where you have full height curb. And then we have concrete curbing proposed for any depressed curbs and flush curbs, just for ADA compatibility as well as maintenance along these entrance aprons to the garages for each of the units. We ran vehicle circulation throughout the site. The site is able to accommodate a 35-foot long garbage truck, as well as Princeton's 47-foot long ladder truck. Has the full availability to circulate the entire site and access each of the proposed units. We have 6-inch thick reinforced concrete aprons in front of all of the garages, providing access into the garage. And we also provide ADA compliant sidewalks throughout the community, which promote pedestrian walkability and connectivity to both the public right-of-way and all areas of the site. The intent is to make sure that we're trying to segregate vehicles from pedestrians as much as we can. So by providing dedicated sidewalks that provide access to all areas of the site, I think we're accomplishing some pedestrian safety improvements for this subject site. Again, the proposed layout provides a safe and efficient circulation throughout the site, and essentially, gives it a nice walkable community and community feel to the development as a whole. As far as other site improvements, we are proposing a playground in the eastern corner of the site, which is all the way up here. That will have some play equipment, picnic tables, benches. It will be fenced in by a 4-foot high aluminum black fence. And the base material underneath that play equipment would be a playground rated wood chip, which would be safe for children. There's various seating amenity areas throughout the site. We have a little courtyard area between the two affordable units with some benches. On the other side of the stream, we have a nice plaza area directly to the southeast of Building D. And then there's also another small seating area right near the entrance off of Bennett Circle. There's also a requirement within the zone to make sure that wherever you have buildings that have the front of the building facing one another, so the frontage being opposite of the garages, then you need to have a landscaped courtyard area. So you can see wherever we have buildings facing one another, like buildings D, F, and E, you have landscaped area, as well as the two affordable units, as well as building I, you have a nice courtyard area with some landscaping improvements. So we comply with that requirement. We have mailboxes proposed near buildings D and H. So H, there's a mailbox directly at the northern corner of that. And then on the bottom portion of the site, we have another mailbox that is proposed just to the west of building D. No trash enclosures proposed. All of the trash will be stored in the garages in typical residential style trash cans for the market rate units. For the affordable units, we do have proposed trash closets, more or less, at the western corner of building H, as well as the eastern corner of at the southern corner of building G. This is where your trash cans will be stored for those units. Still accessible for all of the residents that are living in there, allows them to bring their trash to a single location, and then a private hauler would come and pick up all the trash cans at the bottom of everyone's driveway aprons and from those affordable unit trash rooms. In general, the redevelopment is completely within the limits of the previous disturbance from that office building. So we're staying completely outside of those deed restricted conservation easements. We're not disturbing that area at all. But all in all, the improvements do result in the net increase of just under a ½ acre of new impervious surface coverage, which increases the existing from 27% of the site up to 32% of the site will now be impervious, However, that is still compliant with the maximum of 45. However, in order to mitigate the increase in impervious surface coverage, we are proposing a complex stormwater management design that complies with current municipal and state level stormwater regulations. This includes modifying the existing basin, as well as adding 5 new pervious pavement basins, as well as an additional new above ground bioretention basin, which I'll touch on a little bit later on. As far as grading, the proposed site has been graded to maintain the existing drainage patterns, also to provide ADA accessibility throughout, limit the disturbance of the surrounding area, and to protect the environmentally sensitive areas of the site. So in order to achieve this, we do have 6 new retaining walls proposed around the site. And this allows us to tie into the existing grade while protecting those environmentally sensitive areas as well as the surrounding properties and as many mature trees as we could. We also have a small gabion basket retaining wall for one of our basins along the Bennett Circle frontage that is associated with one of our basins, and that's essentially almost like a rock style wall to help retain the earth and provide some stormwater management storage. But it's important to note that all of these walls are less than 6.5 feet in height, so they're not considered accessory structures. Buildings C, D, and J, so C, D, and the very northern building up here is J. Those buildings are stepped. What that means is wherever you have a vertical demising wall between units, there is an 8-inch difference in the finished floor elevation. So essentially what that allows us to do is allows those longer buildings to follow the natural grade of the site. Reduces the need for unnecessary retaining walls, and it also reduces the need for unnecessary height of these buildings. So essentially it follows the grade of the earth. Other than that, all the other buildings that are proposed will be a single slab on grade construction. Bulk standards, as you heard from the zoning official, we are completely compliant. We are not seeking a single variance or waiver associated with this project. We comply with all those bulk standards of the new zone. So setbacks, building separation, coverage, height, all fully compliant. We're also complying with the buffer requirements. There's a requirement to maintain any existing trees within the first 10 feet of the property frontage unless we need it for site access. We're utilizing those existing driveways. So any of those existing trees that are within the first 10 feet of the property line, we are being maintained. And we also do have a natural existing buffer along the adjacent residential uses. As far as parking, in the AH14 zone, there is a minimum parking space requirement for this type of use. So when you have a stacked townhome with 1 or 2 bedrooms, 1 parking space is required per unit. When you have a stacked townhome with 3 or more bedrooms, 2 parking spaces are required per each dwelling unit. And then on top of that, we need 0.35 parking spaces overall per dwelling unit for visitors, and those must be placed in common areas throughout the site. So doing that calculation for the overall site calculation, there's 47 1 to 2 bedroom units and 38 3-bedroom units and 85 units overall. So saving you from the math, that results in 153 parking spaces required. We have 186 parking spaces proposed. This includes 146 garage spaces and 40 surface level spaces that are parked throughout the site. I know there's kind of a concern with parking distribution, making sure that there's enough parking on either side of the site, meaning on either side of the tributary, because the site almost functions as 2 separate layouts. So we did further break down the parking for both the top portion of the site and the bottom portion of the site. So applying that same parking calculation to the number of units for each portion of that site, we do exceed the parking requirement for both the northeastern and southwestern portions of the site. So that it is adequately parked on either side of that stream. ADA parking, all of the garages are deemed as accessible. However, we do need to provide handicap accessible parking for the 40 surface spaces. For the 40 surface spaces, per ADA code, 2 ADA parking spaces are required. We took the opportunity to place them up by the playground. We felt this was the best location because playground is kind of a common public space where, you know, someone that might have need an ADA parking space, maybe they want to be visiting the playground with children. And it's also closer to the affordable units, which all of them do not have ADA parking. It is obviously the closest accessible route to the playground. And there is also an accessible route using the blue painted crosswalk, providing access to press curbs, and the fully ADA compliant sidewalk, providing access throughout the site. So maybe it is not the closest parking space to some of the buildings. It does provide full accessibility from those spaces throughout the site. But more than happy to talk about that a little bit more in details. I'm sure there will be some questions coming up. Minimum parking space size, 9 by 18. We are fully compliant with that. And any of the parking spaces for the 7 affordable units that do not have garage spaces, the applicant was willing to reserve parking spaces for those 7 units to make sure that they have a parking space that's close to the unit when they do not have a garage space.
Daniel, can we just interrupt for 1 sec?
Of course.
You talked about having done a calculation showing that there's adequate parking both on the what I'm going to call the western portion of the site and the eastern portion. But can you be more specific? Was there a ratio of like visitor parking per dwelling unit that you were shooting for? And, you know, because it's hard for us to know what are dedicated surface parking for units versus visitor parking. Can you tell us what you've got specifically in visitor parking on both sides of the site?
Yep, absolutely. So the rear of the stream, so starting on the eastern side of the site, we are required to have 90 parking spaces overall. We have 106 proposed. So back in that area, there is 51 units in total. For those 51 units, you're required to have 0.35 visitor spaces. So 51 times 0.35 equates to 18 visitor spaces. And in the rear of the site, there are 28 visitor spaces or surface parking spaces. So even if you subtract out 7 spaces that could be dedicated to the 7 COA units that do not have a dedicated parking garage, you would still have 21 parking spaces that would be available for visitors, whereas 19 is required. And then if you look at the south portion of the site, or I'm sorry, the western portion of the site, remember all of these units will have their own 2-car tandem garages. Doing the math for the front portion of the site, we're required to have 63 parking spaces. We have 80 overall. And of the 34 units that are proposed in front of the site, that requires 12 surface parking spaces, and we do provide exactly 12 surface parking spaces in front of the stream.
Thank you.
So hopefully that answered your question for you. Of
course.
As far as electric vehicle charging requirements, there is the state requirement to provide 15% of the spaces on site for residential use or multifamily residential use to be EV make ready, and 1/3 of them need to be built out at the time of construction. So for the 40 parking spaces that are on the surface of the site, 15% of that would equate to 6 electric vehicle charging spaces, and we do provide 6. 2 of them directly to the east of Building B, 2 of them up near the playground, and then there's another 2 of them directly to the northwest of Building H. And then at least 22 of the garage parking spaces will be EV or EV make ready. But being in a garage, if a resident has an electric vehicle and they want a charger in there, I'm sure accommodations can be made for them. But we'll make sure that we comply with the state requirement. For bike parking, 1 bicycle parking space is required for each 1.6 bedrooms. So not units, but bedrooms of a multifamily dwelling with 3 or 4 more dwelling units in the municipality. So overall, we have 205 bedrooms proposed for this development. This equates to 128 spaces required, or bike parking spaces required. We have 138 bike parking spaces. Of that 128 that is required, 80% of them need to be long-term. So 80% of 128 is 102. And then 20% need to be short-term. So short-term of that 128 is 26 spaces. Long-term bike parking is accomplished by storing the bikes within the units themselves. Our project architect can point that out a little bit better how they propose to do that. As far as the short-term bike parking, we do have 3 bike racks that are proposed throughout the site. one of which directly next to Building C, the other of which is up near the playground, and the last of which is directly to the northwest of Building H. Each one of those is capable of storing 18 bikes. This is detailed on our bike rack detail that is on page 24 of our site plan set. Essentially, it's your standard old school bike rack that you'd see that has a single almost grate in the center of it, and you're available to park bikes from either side, essentially head in 90 degrees to that edge, and you'll see in there, you can even count on the detail that there's essentially 2 slots, so the bikes would alternate one side versus the other. So they are capable of fitting 18 bikes. But again, if we need to further distribute bike parking throughout the site, if we need to make some smaller bike racks and place them a little bit more often throughout the site, I'm sure we can find a home for that, and we just can discuss that a little bit further as well. As far as signage, we do have one proposed monument sign. This is directly to the south of the southern driveway entrance into the site. This is a fully compliant with the zone monument sign. Essentially, it'll be like a 4x4 brick pillar that's 8 feet high. It'll have a cantilevered sign that kind of hangs off of it. Very decorative in nature, really not meant to advertise the site, more of a site identification feature, letting visitors or pickups, drop-offs really identify that this is the entrance to the site so they know where they are, and fully compliant and will match essentially the architecture of the building itself. The sign face, the sign that will be hanging from that cantilever space, is only 10 square feet. So very small, and they'll have a small solar panel external light to illuminate it, which would be facing down to help throw some light on that sign itself. Stormwater management, I'll be brief, so I'm sure there'll be some more questions on it, but essentially we designed our stormwater management system to comply with New Jersey soil erosion and sediment control standards, the municipality of Princeton, as well as state standards. This development meets the definition of a major development due to disturbance greater than a quarter acre, as well as the new impervious surface coverage. So in order to comply with stormwater management requirements, we take a look at 3 main things. That's quantity, quality, and stormwater groundwater recharge. So what we do in order to study our site, we study the topography of the site in order to establish the drainage areas and figure out where the water goes to under existing conditions. This is known as our point of analysis. In this case, our point of analysis is the unnamed tributary that ultimately flows to Harry's Brook tributary. After we have that, we also study the soil properties and the ground cover. And we use this information to essentially establish our existing runoff rates for the various design storms in order to get our starting point for how we need to design our stormwater. And this includes our groundwater recharge volume. Once we have our existing parameters, we use this information to design the proposed stormwater management system in order to meet the local and state requirements for those 3 main design constraints, which are, again, our quantity, quality, and groundwater recharge. In our case, compliance was achieved by the use of 5 proposed pervious pavement basins. Those pervious pavement basins are located directly to the easternmost edge of the site. You can kind of see this different hatching on the pavement areas, as well as between the affordable units, as well as buildings E and F. This is all pervious pavement. And then once you get to the western side of the tributary, there are 3 more pervious pavement basins, one of which in this area before you get to the bridge. There's one more that is between buildings A and B. And then finally, the 5th pervious pavement basin is between buildings C and D. Pervious pavement accomplishes 2 things. It collects the surface water that is generated by the motor vehicle surface. This is considered dirty water because you have grit and oil and sand and everything else that comes off of car tires. It filters through the pervious pavement. The pervious pavement captures any impurities of that stormwater. And then below the pervious pavement system, there is essentially gravel, which acts as a stormwater detention system, which detains the stormwater and releases it at a controlled rate. In addition to those 5 pervious pavement basins, we have a proposed bioretention basin. Bioretention basin is located right along the frontage of the site. And really what it's going to look like is a depression with some plantings in it. So it's meant to capture stormwater. It's meant to treat the stormwater by allowing the stormwater to percolate through the soil level, the soil layer of that basin, but it just looks like a planted area. So you have wet site tolerant plants and trees, that will look nice, but it also treats the stormwater and again acts as a detention feature. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we have that existing detention basin located at the eastern corner of the site. That existing basin will be upgraded from a standard detention basin as it is today to a bioretention basin as well. So this basin now will also be revamped to have some nice plantings in it, which again will accomplish those two things of cleaning the stormwater, detaining it, and releasing it at a controlled rate. By utilizing these basins that we propose, we do fully comply with the state and local stormwater standards. I believe, Mr. Scupian and Puricell both have some minor comments at this point, but there's nothing that we feel we cannot overcome. I think this is a design that functions well and it meets all of the requirements and will be able to accomplish that need. And still, we'll end up seeing a reduction in stormwater rates when compared to existing conditions for the stormwater that is leaving this site. As far as groundwater recharge, we actually have poor soils in this area. So under existing conditions, no water is really able to get back into the ground. So under proposed conditions, that stays the same, so no change there. But again, with these additional green spaces at the bottom of the basin, if there's any opportunity for some of the stormwater to get back into the ground, that's great. If not, all of the basins do have under drains, meaning that you're not going to see these basins sitting wet for a long time. There is still another way for stormwater to exit this basin if it's not able to percolate through the soil. And again, this is fully compliant with state and local regulations. As far as utilities to the site, we have confirmation from all the utility providers that service is available to the site. So gas, electric, water, and sewer. There are various, gas will be provided off of Thanet Circle. The electric will be provided from both Governor's Lane. There's an existing easement that is to the benefit of the subject site that'll provide it to the eastern side, and then we'll get electric service off of Thanet Circle for the western side. As far as water, we have already reviewed the design with New Jersey American. We'll have a fire service and a sprinkler or a domestic service to each of the proposed buildings. We're also proposing a fire hydrant at the northern limit of the site to provide fire service to those buildings. We will need DEP approval for BWSE. And then finally, for sanitary sewer, we're also providing two separate connection points for sanitary. There's an existing manhole that is directly to the east of the existing vehicle bridge. We'll be connecting into that sanitary manhole, which discharges sanitary flow towards an existing municipal-owned easement that is along the southern side of the property. That'll collect all of the sanitary sewer from the eastern side. The western side of the development will discharge the sanitary sewer to the main within Thanet Circle. And again, we'll also need DEP approval for treatment works associated with this site as well, but an approval that is essentially administrative since we've already have confirmation that the treatment facility and the municipality has availability to service these subject sites. Lighting for the site, we do have site lighting proposed. It was designed to comply with IES and Princeton lighting standards for residential use, really to provide adequate lighting and safety and security while trying to minimize off-site glare and protect environmental sensitivity areas. So we do have 20 pole-mounted decorative style LED area lights that are located at or mounted at 14 feet above grade. You can see them on the site plan identified with these symbols near the trees. There will also be 46 building mounted, again, decorative style LED lights on the building. These will be mounted about 22 feet above grade. All of these lights will be full cutoff fixtures, meaning that you won't be able to, or they'll be dark sky compliant. You won't have any uplighting that is impacting light pollution. We're making sure that we comply with the light levels at all the property lines. Again, fully compliant application and providing energy efficient lighting. Moving on to landscaping, essentially, when we always look at these sites for landscaping, is we look at it with an overall philosophy to use varying colors, textures, heights, really to create an aesthetic pleasing and visually inviting environment that complements the proposed architecture while softening the hard lines of the improvements and enhancing the overall appearance from the site from the perspective of the adjacent roads and properties, as well as this is going to be a home. You want to provide a peaceful and inviting site for residents and their visitors. And if you've visited any of the other toll properties you know that their sites are very well maintained. They have nice landscaping, and it's going to be no different here. We have a substantial landscaping design, and we will look to maintain that. We will have to take some trees down for the proposed development, disturbing the existing office complex. We're looking at removing about 180 existing trees. Doing the tree calculation per the municipality, 204 replacement trees are required, and we will absolutely comply with that requirement. Right now, our landscaping plan calls for 202 trees. That was a miscount on our part. We can absolutely find a home for 2 more trees to make sure we comply with that 204 replacement tree requirement. In total, including the trees plus all of the various flowering shrubs, evergreen shrubs, ground plantings, we're looking at over 1,000 new plantings that will be proposed throughout the site. So it will be very nicely landscaped. As you heard in opening comments, we do have a landscaping schematic for foundation plantings around the base of each of these building types. Schematic meaning that it's going to follow the same pattern, the same scheme for each of the buildings, but obviously varying lengths and widths of these buildings, so that number will have to be adjusted accordingly. And we also have a schematic planning detail for the 2 proposed bioretention basins. As you heard me state earlier, we do have plantings proposed in each one of those basins to accomplish stormwater management and also to add some aesthetics to the site, be fully planted in accordance with that landscape schedule, which is a DEP approved landscape schedule. Again, maintaining as many existing mature trees as we can, especially within the conservation easements and along the frontage of the site. So it will be a very nicely landscaped site. So wrapping up here, we do have various other outside agency approvals that we're seeking. We've already applied to the Mercer County Planning Board. We have some minor comments from them, which we will comply with. We'll be seeking approval or certification from the Mercer County Soil Conservation District. We'll also be applying to the Delaware Raritan Canal Commission. They'll be reviewing stormwater management associated with this site. We'll be looking for some freshwater wetlands permits, essentially general permits for the maintenance of the existing features on the site and provide some underground utility lines below the existing stream. The water line is going to go underneath for directional drilling below the existing stream to be able to provide service to the rear portion of the site. Also be seeking from the DEP a flood hazard area individual permit, which will verify our flood storage volume, making sure that we're complying with riparian zone requirements, revegetating some of the riparian zone. As you know from, as I mentioned in my opening comments, the existing building essentially goes right up to within the riparian zone associated with that unnamed tributary. So we're restoring that back to a natural condition. So we're going to have less impacts to that existing stream by providing some more separation, but we do need a permit for that. And then, as you heard me earlier mention, we'll also be seeking approval from the DEP for water and sewer service. Also have the opportunity to go through the very detailed review memos from your board professionals and your municipal professionals. From a site civil perspective, there was nothing in there that I saw as a red flag, no showstoppers. Everything that I saw on that from a site civil perspective, we can absolutely comply with, and we intend to as we continue to work towards our entitlements of this site. So, Mr. Carr, I think I hit everything, but if I missed anything, feel free to redirect me. If not, I make myself available for any questions that the board members may have.
You hit a lot. Madam Chair, it's 9:13. I know you were going to have a break somewhere in here. We could have questions of Dan, remembering that we have a traffic expert and an architect. So those questions might be, any questions of that sort might be held till later. We can do it now or after the break.
I see David's hand up already, and I know I have questions too. My impulse is to break and then start questioning and such afterward, after a 10-minute break. Is that okay with you, David and Jack? You both got your hands up. Okay, so 9:13, let's reconvene at 9:23 sharp. See you then. Thank you. welcome back. I think we have just a couple people who, there's Claudia, David, there's David. Okay, we'll reconvene and start with questions. For now, I've lost him on my screen. The gentleman who just testified. Okay, great. David Cohen and then Jack Taylor. David?
Thanks. Two questions. One, I don't think I heard Daniel address the engineering concern about how the stream would be protected during construction. So I'd like him to address that.
Yep, my pleasure. So that'll be.
Well, let me just ask my second one.
You're good.
And the second question is, for the units without garages, I'd like to better understand how the long-term bike parking can work. I'm concerned that if the intent is to have bikes actually stored in the units, that somebody used like a three-floor walk-up, that's not a viable solution. So, and I know you said the architect was going to address this, but at least, it interacts with the site plan because there may need to be some covered parking.
David, we actually have a drawing that the architect would show you where within the unit, at the bottom of the unit, it's going to be stored.
Okay. Then go ahead and answer the first question.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so the stream protection will be in part associated with our soil conservation district certification. So as I mentioned, when I was kind of going over the existing conditions, the site slopes down almost in a valley towards that stream. So both sides of the development will drain towards that stream. So we'll have silt protection fencing up on either side of the stream along the limit of disturbance, which would capture any silt that's flowing towards it. There's ways that we can further reinforce that. We can do what's called super silt fence, which is a little bit more of a heavy duty fencing that tends to get blown over or ran over as easy. And then if you're concerned with water quality as well, I know when they're doing work along streams, you can put some of those floating oil separator barriers that would capture any potential for oil going downstream that you've run across the stream, that water can still flow beneath it. So there's various different ways that we can protect it, and more than happy to do that. So we understand the sensitivity of it. We want to make sure we're not going past that limit of disturbance. It will be staked out by a surveyor, and we'll make sure we're in compliance with the soil erosion sediment control standards for the state.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Of course.
Mr. Taylor and then Nat Bodigheimer.
Thank you. I have two quick questions and then one observation. First of all, when you see Harry's Brook, it sounds small. You think it's small. There doesn't seem to be much water. And yet when you walk around, it's crystal clear that it is in an enormous recessed setting with trees. And when I think about that in the context of SWM's memo, they used the language really, really big flooding. I think extreme flooding was the terminology I used. So far, my question is simply, how much attention did you spend to the risk of extreme flooding in the creation of the storage management facility? It seems to be a fundamental issue, maybe the most important first issue.
Understood. And that's a really good question. I might even lean on Professor Scupian for some input as well if he wants to add. But when we prepared so I'll start with a flood management standpoint. When we prepared our application to the DEP for our flood hazard area verification, we did prepare a model of this stream. So this stream is unstudied, meaning that there is not a FEMA map or a state studied stream associated with this map. What we had to do instead is we actually had to model the stream, meaning we had to go out and survey the stream. We had to survey upstream and downstream of the site, get cross sections of the stream, determine the contributory drainage area that goes to the stream, and we actually plug it into a model. And we essentially run this model utilizing flooding conditions. So we don't even use current rainfall data. We look at the year 2100, so the projected rainfall data for the 100-year storm. We not only run that through the stream, we add another 25% at the top of that. So we take the year 2100, 100-year storm from that year, so even greater than what the 100-year storm is considered. We run 125% of that of the stream, and that becomes our flood hazard elevation. And that flood hazard area elevation is contained completely within the unnamed tributary that goes through the center of the site and flows into the Harrys Brook tributary. The Harrys Brook tributary is a map stream. It has a flood hazard area associated with it. And even applying the new stormwater map or the new state rules for flood elevation calculation, which would be adding an additional 3 feet from that FEMA elevation, it is still completely within the conservation areas of the site, and our development will be outside of that flood hazard area. And then from a stormwater management perspective, we are making sure that our stormwater rates are not exceeding what leaves the site under existing condition. And remember, this site has a existing basin. So we looked at the site in 2 separate conditions under existing conditions, which was verified by the state that this is how we would model the site. So in order to get our existing parameters, we looked at the rates of the stormwater leaving that basin under existing conditions. So this basin was built sometime in 2005, which complied with the stormwater management rules that came out in 2004, which was essentially the basis of those rate reductions that we hear today. So we looked at that, we determined the rates using today's current storms leaving that site or that basin. And then we also looked at the site as if it was completely undeveloped and 100% wooded. And we determined the runoff rates from this site when it was completely undeveloped and fully wooded. And we have to take the more conservative of the two of that. And surprisingly enough, the more conservative was current conditions. So that meant that the stormwater leaving the site under current conditions was slower than as if the stormwater would be leaving the site if it was completely undeveloped. And then we had to make sure that we were not exceeding those rates under proposed conditions. So we took a lot of attention to detail. We worked with Professor Scupion for a while to make sure that we were meeting those requirements. And I think we accomplished that. So hopefully that answers your question. That was a long-winded response, but we spent a lot of time on it. And I want to make sure I try to explain it as best as I could.
Very comprehensive response. Thank you, Dan. Second quick question. What is the implication to storage management control of hydraulic soil, and how does that factor into a bioretention basin, which isn't 100% clear to me in the first place?
So you're asking about the water's ability to get through the soil and filter through it?
Yeah.
Yep. So in most cases, or in some cases, when you have sites with really good soil conditions, so a nice sandy soil where you get great infiltration rates, those bioretention basins, essentially stormwater goes into them. The first flush of the storm, normally the first 1.5 inches, 2 inches of stormwater would be considered the dirty water because that's the first flush. It's cleaning off all the pavement areas. So most of the time, when you have good soil conditions, the stormwater will get into those basins or get into the pervious pavement, filters through, and all those particulates and solids and oils are filtered out by the sand layer, and then it further infiltrates into the soil below that. In the case like you do on this site where you have poor soil conditions and poor infiltration abilities, underneath that first 1.5 foot of soil media at the basin bottom, we have an underdrain. So what that is a perforated PVC pipe, which after that first flush of that stormwater filters through your 18 inches of soil there, it's then collected by those perforated pipes and then conveyed to our outlet control structure. And that is our structure that is actually detaining and releasing that stormwater at that controlled rate to make sure we're still meeting our quantity reductions. So you still get those filtering properties of the soil, even when you don't have the ability for the stormwater to get back into the ground below it.
Yeah, got it. And quick observation, I walked across the footbridge and we drove across the car bridge. As a layman, both need attention. They're not perfect.
So from a structural engineering perspective, I understand they are safe.
To an expert.
But I believe we do intend to replace the pedestrian bridge and resurface the vehicle bridge.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Nat?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm hoping these questions aren't getting ahead of where we are, but let me just check because I think that they may relate to the questions that we're asking of the applicant. The first one, the first question would be directed to planning staff and perhaps to Councilmember Cohen, which is just a reminder of what public process this project has gone through up to this point. So what is sort of what engagement in public there has been. And the second is a question about just a reminder what it is the action that we are taking here this evening with this application, and what actions we may be preparing ourselves to take, given that there's an ordinance for this and this is part of the fourth round housing plan. I just want to make sure I understand what latitude we have, what kinds of things we may be in a position to ask for, what kinds of things we might not be in a position to ask for. I hope that that's germane to the questions that we're posing to the applicant, was sort of the motivation for those linked questions.
Yeah, so if, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I'll take a first stab at that.
Sure, yep.
And then if need be, Mr. Lesko can also step in about the additional elements of the process that's brought us to this point. So this application, as has been noted, or rather this site is part of the municipality's fourth round housing element and fair share plan. That did go through a I don't want to go through the whole history of the fourth round because I've done full presentations on that before, not before this board, but they can take a while, so I don't want to go too much into depth on them. But the process that was undertaken was that the state gave the municipality a required number of units.
If I can be clear, I mean, my question is really about public process in Princeton at the council, and to what extent has there been opportunities for the public to engage on this to this point?
Oh, okay. So I believe the main points at which the public specifically could engage with the first the concept and then the ordinance, because I want to be very specific with that. This is the first time that the full application is before the public. What we had before was the concept plan upon which the ordinance was based. The concept plan was incorporated into the fourth round housing element and fair share plan. There was a public comment on the plan itself, including all of the sites contained within it. And then there was the ordinance itself that was brought to council, introduced, brought before this board for consistency review, and then back before the council for a second reading and the actual hearing of that ordinance.
The concept plan, I'm just asking a dumb question just to be clear. The concept plan was brought to the planning board and approved by us for consistency with the master plan.
No, so the concept plan, so I should be clear. So the concept plan was used as the basis for the ordinance. The concept plan was included as an appendix to the fourth round housing element and fair share plan to show an overall schematic of what the idea for what the site would have. The ordinance itself is what was brought before the planning board for the consistency review when the council introduced it, which I believe was back in September of last year.
But I just to be super clear, Nat, council did not adopt the fair share element of the master plan, the housing element. This body is actually the body that formally took the action to adopt that.
But
right.
David,
Right. And so
David,
this concept plan was, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting somebody.
no, me. But David, under the applicable rules, the governing body endorses the fair share.
Sure,
And-
absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's a work product of the planning board.
I guess what
Right.
I'm trying to get clarity on, for both ourselves and for the public who's been testifying, is just sort of what aspects of this have been established and what parts are we really trying to engage with now.
Could I comment on that?
Yes.
This is now before the planning board, obviously, for site plan approval, and the normal rules apply. The board basically has to review the site plan application vis-a-vis all the pertinent standards, which are not only bulk standards, but other standards as well, and make a judgment as to whether it complies. If it doesn't, and compliance can be affected by conditions, it imposes conditions. But it's not that the board is in a position where got to approve this. As is, the board has the usual powers it does when reviewing a site plan, recognizing, of course, that it is a fourth round plan and there's affordable housing units at stake. And the boards typically in such a circumstance kind of give special deference to the applicant. Nevertheless, the board can look at all the issues that have been raised in the reports, what that may be raised by the public, and that you raise yourselves. So the board is not constrained.
And without disagreeing with any of that, of course, I would also note that it's been pointed out to the board that the plan complies with the ordinance, and the applicant is not looking for waivers or variances. And so if the board finds there are certain aspects of this that raise concerns related to public health or safety, or that, in other ways are not consistent with the spirit of the ordinance or master plan, then of course we can raise those concerns and ask for changes to be made. But the bones of this, in terms of the numbers of dwellings, the numbers of affordable versus market rate, the redevelopment of the site, the protections of the areas that are under conservation easement, all of that is in the fourth round plan that we saw, including the concept plan for this site, and approved last year.
Yeah. I mean, and certainly, as the zoning officer indicated, it's in compliance, and that would be really with the bulk standards. But there are other standards as well. There's affordable housing regulations that is an ordinance that Princeton has adopted that's 50 pages long.
I also just want to say that the staff reports are super helpful in identifying the sorts of things that we should be deliberating on.
Yes.
They raised dozens of
Right.
issues, which are exactly the ones we should be focused on.
Absolutely.
Dan Dobromilski, or Nat, does that answer your question? I hope so. Okay. Dan Dobromilski and then Owen O'Donnell.
Thank you. This is Dan Dobromilski. I had two questions based upon the engineering testimony. The first question relates to the new median island in Thanet Circle. And I guess the question is Thanet Circle a public or a private street? And what's driving the need for that median island? It doesn't extend all the way to your drives. So it suggests that it's greater than just your development, but it seems to me that you must already, the units on there must already exceed the average daily trips in the ADA, or not the ADA, you know what I mean? I forget what that.
RSIS.
Yes, thank you, RSIS. So, and what really triggered to me is that having a 3 foot wide grass strip is not the easiest thing to maintain. So if it's a public street, I'm not sure it's something the town really would relish taking on. And it's not that it's huge. And is it really needed, is the question.
It
Jim's
was
hand went up quickly, so let me turn first to Jim Purcell.
Yeah, let me explain that. When Thanet Circle was developed with the Avalon project and the Princeton Senior Living, which was called Pearl at the time, the Thanet Circle, which was at the time called Thanet Road, was a mixed use roadway. By converting this office park to a fully residential community, this now becomes a residential street that must meet RSIS, and this separation of entrances so that we have the ability for emergency services to be able to have 2 exits in case one of them is blocked. And that's the purpose of the separation from RSIS. It became an issue, and this median is something that was directed by us during the concept review. And the idea is that no more than 700 linear feet of a roadway can end in a cul-de-sac. And so they've complied with our requirement and the RSIS requirement by providing this median. And yes, it will become a public asset and we will have to maintain it.
Gotcha. All right, that answers that question. Thank you. The second question relates to the walkway that occurs between building E and building D. Or let me see, yeah, building E and D across the bridge, basically. And as I'm looking at it here with the presentation where the plan's all put together, it strikes me that the walk kind of goes from the front door of a building D unit to the front door of a building F unit, whereas maybe that walkway is really intended to serve the entire community and might be better routed to go kind of from the courtyard to the right of building D to the center of building E and F, and also to the right of building E to serve or kind of direct pedestrians through the community and not from a front door to a front door. And I'm wondering if there's flexibility to kind of look at that and say what's the best route for that walkway.
So there is some flexibility, but it's minimal. You're getting close to the conservation easement within this area, and we cannot expand the footprint or change where the existing disturbance is through that conservation easement. Once we are the outside of it, which is the lighter shaded areas, we certainly have a little bit of flexibility to meander that sidewalk. So we can certainly take a closer look at that. I see where you're coming from. That looks like the sidewalk's going right to the front door. If we could shift it a bit to avoid going right to the front door of specific units, we'll certainly look into doing that. So that's a good point.
Yeah. So okay,
That's a great
what I was
point.
looking for. Something where it would kind of seem like if you're in building B and walking over to in between, that it may make more sense to have it routed from kind of common space to common space rather than door to door.
Yep, makes sense.
And it feels like you could do that by just putting some curves in.
That's all the
Curve
questions.
with a V, not a B. Right.
That's all the questions I have right now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Nathan and then Jim.
Yeah, I know Owen is in front of me, but I just wanted to piggyback
Oh,
off
I'm
of
sorry.
what
I thought Owen's hand went down, or oh no, there it is. Sorry, Nathan. I'm gonna take Owen first.
Okay.
He set his hand up a while. Sorry, Owen.
First of all, to Dan's point that he just made, I think that it would also help with the handicapped parking for anybody who's going from the handicapped spots to those more front-facing buildings, if we could move that walkway a little bit. I also want to touch on Nat's question as well. Maybe this is a similar question, maybe this is totally different, but has there been any interaction with the local residents, the ones on Terhune Road and the at Governor's Lane regarding the plans?
Not to my knowledge.
No. Okay, we find that things usually go a lot smoother when developers bring in the neighbors and get their input on at an early stage. But so be that as it is. That's
Thanks
all.
for asking that question, Owen. Thank you. Nathan and then Jim.
Right. Yeah. So I just wanted to, I mean, I have several questions, but I guess where I wanted to start is based on Dan Dobromilski's previous comment about the pedestrian way. Because there's no pedestrian route, the bridge, there's a vehicle bridge, there's a pedestrian bridge, and it sounds like the idea is that those two are going to be that pedestrian traffic and vehicle traffic are intended to be separate between those two. So this really becomes a big concern then about making sure that if people are moving, especially to that playground in the back, because the easier access point would be across that vehicular bridge for at least the people in what are those, A and B? Buildings A and B. So really having some kind of wayfinding, I guess, and I think this goes to the question that was brought up in the engineering and zoning report as well about pedestrian and bicycle traffic as well. I'm not sure what the full solution is, but that does seem to be a concern, and making sure that the wayfinding across that pedestrian path and getting to that pedestrian path is going to be it's going to be important. And I don't know, Jim, if you had a similar comment or if it was something completely unrelated, but that was an initial thought based on the conversation, the discussion that was just had.
Thanks, Nathan. Jim?
Yeah, I don't want to testify for the applicant, but given that this is a residential development that is not going to see any through traffic, it really wasn't a concern of mine that residents from A and B would find their way to the playground in the most efficient route, but maybe the applicant should address that. My biggest concern, and Dan, you didn't address it as fully as I had hoped, is that the ADA compliant spaces are not linked to those ADA units, particularly the affordable ADA compliant units. My concern is that residents in the affordable units that are ADA accessible have a very long route if they're going to park a car. And I would really like to see some discussion about placing the ADA accessible parking spaces in proximity to the residences and not the playground. I don't understand why they're close to the playground in the first place. Is the playground the ADA accessible element of this entire development? I would think that the units that are ADA accessible should have ADA parking spaces in close proximity to those units. And I just don't see that. This is not to me in accordance with the spirit of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So I'd like to see that. Plus, there are no ADA spaces on the other side of the. Are there ADA spaces on the other side of the stream?
There's not. And
there are no accessible ADA spaces for visitors. If I was a visitor with a handicap, where would I park in order to visit people in units A, B, C, and D?
So I'll attempt to address that. So first, from the accessible affordable unit. Based upon the number of affordable units we have, only one is required to be ADA accessible. That ADA accessible COA unit does have a garage space, and that garage space is actually an oversized garage space. So you have full ADA accessibility for that COA unit that's ADA accessible. Our thinking for placing it by the playground is we figured this was the most public space associated with the community that we're proposing. Second of which, looking on this side, there's actually a step.
And can I interrupt you a second? Because it was not clear. That was something that I don't think we've put in any of the memos unless it was in Nathan's memo. Is this playground proposed to be accessible to the general public, or is it only exclusive to this development?
I would have to defer that to the applicant or our
It's accessible just to, sorry to interrupt. It's accessible just to this development.
So the idea that ADA accessible parking spaces at this, I don't understand why anyone who lives in this development would be driving to the playground and need the ADA accessible spaces.
Yep,
I'm just very concerned about the ADA accessible spaces not
make the
not being at the most accessible route to the units that they're going to serve.
Understood. And with that said, I'm more than happy to relocate one or two to be, maybe over this bank of 7. Might need some additional concrete work to put some ramping in because we do have a step up on this side of the sidewalk. This is the accessible route for building I, but could certainly take a look at that. Our opinion, again, was just that we figured that this would be the most vastly used community space for this specific community, which is why we want to make those the accessible locations. We can find a home for one of them both together or separate the two of them. The reason we kept them on this side of the development versus the one in the front is because, again, all of these units have 2 tandem spaces. So if you're in the need of an accessible parking space, even if you have a visitor that you're coming over that is somebody in need that might need an accessible parking space, I think you would be willing to share your parking space in your unit with that person that's coming over. You can go into your garage and relocate your car to one of the visitor spaces in the frontage, which is why we wanted to locate them in the back, because that's where you have the deficit of parking spaces or garage units. And that was the community space. But happy to work with you to locate either one of them or both of them to a different spot. We can place them over here, have direct access to these buildings. I'm happy to do that.
Can I continue on this thread a little bit?
Yeah.
You meet the requirement for the number of units, a number of accessible spaces. It would be beneficial if you would exceed that and include at least one accessible space on the other side. From the spirit of the whole, if I'm in need of an accessible space and I'm visiting somebody in building C, why shouldn't there be an accessible space for me down there? You're essentially saying that if I'm a visitor who has a handicap, I have to drive up the road, park at the playground, and then figure out some way to get to building C to visit somebody that I'm visiting. This is about visitor parking. It's not about it. It's about both. It's about having accessible spaces for accessible units, but also having accessible spaces for visitors. And this doesn't meet that requirement as far as I'm concerned.
Understood. I mean, we can certainly take a look. I mean, truth be told, we're tight on space. We're up against our conservation easements in the front. We're really maxed out on the developable space, but maybe we could shift some things around it and find the home for one more space while not sacrificing any of the other visitor spaces that are located in the front. I'm sure there's a way we can do it. We can get creative. If that'll address your need, we can get creative.
For what it's worth, I strongly agree with Mr. Purcell, and I think that you have more spaces than are required. So it's it's an issue that's fixable. Linda Schwimmer and then David Cohen.
Yes, I had a couple questions and a comment. First of all, I was wondering, in the beginning when you were talking about the entrance and widening both sides and it was going to be in two-way traffic, is there a plan for a bike lane there, or is that just for cars and it would be shared road?
For the entrance from Thanet Circle, we're making
The entrance onto Terhune.
Okay, you're saying that where we
Yeah.
have our boulevard style. So
Yep.
Thanet Circle already is a bike boulevard. There's sharrows along the road, and it is intended to be a bike boulevard, and that would stay the same. So even with the addition of that island, it doesn't change the ability for the roads to essentially be shared by bike traffic.
Okay, but not like a
Not
side,
a dedicated
not a
sidewalk.
side dedicated. Okay, just okay. As I was reading through everything in preparation, there was a laundry list of items that the staff recommended that we require be explicitly promised or stated that would be included should we move forward to recommend this to the council. And I don't remember what they all were, but there was a lot of them, and I remember agreeing with all of them. So I don't want to ask all of them or list all of them, but I think, in this discussion tonight, it would be good to know if there are things that you explicitly agree to, or if there were any listed items that you absolutely do not agree to, or if you agree to all of them, if we could just put those into the record that there's agreement with everything in the township's memo that you're going to do, or whatever the process for that would be. But I did see a lot of what I thought were important requirements listed in there. And then oh, go ahead.
First of all, really good thing to ask for. What of all of these things do you not agree to do? Because those are really important things, and they end up affecting the resolution and conditions, et cetera. But I do want to make clear that we're not recommending our action that we will take tonight or at a future meeting if we don't finish tonight will be action on a preliminary and final major site plan. We're not recommending anything to council from here. This is our approval to make or not with conditions or not. It's this is, we're the deciders.
Got it. Okay. So then I guess, yeah, going back to the comment of what on the list will you agree to or not agree to? And related to that, I also wanted to go back to the what Mr. Purcell was just asking about the parking, and there was a mention that you made about that there's only one accessible based on the number of spaces. There's only one handicap spot for the affordable housing, and
one affordable COA unit.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, accessible.
And I guess I just wanted to press on that a little bit, because given that there's priorities in the low-income housing laws for people with disabilities, I wonder if that's good enough for really the people that are going to be moving into potentially living here, and thinking about, just as we're thinking about the accessibility and use of the building, that it's not really just a population thing. It's a special population thing to be thinking about use and need and accessibility.
So I'll preface that by saying the one unit that I'm speaking to is technically a van accessible unit. So meaning that somebody with a handicapped van where you actually have the lift that comes out of the side, that's that unit that is fully van accessible. The other
Okay.
units, especially the ground floor ones, are still accessible units. They're flush to the grade. You don't have those changes in elevation. Wheelchairs are still able to get in and out of that. They just didn't have the van accessible parking space. The unit themselves are accessible. And I'm sure as far as all the co-op obligations, way over my head, you'll probably hear a ton of that from the architect. I could detail that significantly better than I'd be able to.
So I'm going to interrupt quickly because that is what I was asking you, Dan, and I apologize. It wasn't an engineering question, but we don't have a really good handle on which of the units are ADA accessible. You testified to which ones actually have an accessible garage. I'm concerned about the ones that don't have interior parking spaces, that have to rely on surface parking, that may or may not be accessible. And I think that is something that we'll hear from the architect. And just to remind everybody, we're quizzing the engineer on the site plan with questions that may be answered in further testimony. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And after all of the testimony and the Q&A and public comment, or maybe before then, at some point, back to Linda's first question, we would like to hear from the applicant which of the suggestions made in the professionals' memos you decline to or would make an argument against accepting. Mr. Cohen?
Yeah, I wanted to ask one more question to help us fully understand the accessibility issues here, which is, will the site be essentially fully accessible? And when I say that, I mean, will the units at the front of the site be able to get to the playground at the rear of the site, or will the slopes of the road, based on the grade changes that Daniel was talking about, I think that people who live in the front buildings may have to drive to the playground to get there, because it may not be accessible to get there by using the roadways or the pedestrian pathways. So that would, in my mind, would inform whether having at least one accessible parking space by the playground makes sense or not.
So the site, the site does have fully compliant handicap accessible pathways throughout the entire site, and that is a ADA requirement at the national level. There is accessible routes out to the public right away, all the way to the back of the site. Yep.
You can get from any point on the site to any other point on the site.
Yes, sir.
In a wheelchair.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
And if I may jump in for a second, just in response to the question was raised by Ms. Schwimmer as to when do we go through these lists. What we usually do when we get, or often do when we get to our professionals, is we'll have the professional not only comment on all the testimony and that it's heard in the plans, etc., but go through its own report and tell us what items in the report it's recommending be adopted as conditions. And at that point, as we go through one by one, we ask the applicant whether it agrees or not. If it doesn't have to agree, but it might be that it doesn't agree, explains why, and we drop that. It might be that it agrees, fine. It might be that it doesn't agree, but we think we should do it anyway. But that's what we usually do. We get that interaction when we get to all our professionals and they're reviewing their own reports.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. First, related to the unnamed tributary, goes right through the middle of the site. On the north side of the roadway bridge, that tributary is really, really heavily vegetated with yellow iris, really heavily, such that if we had, a flooding event, it would definitely slow down the water, which would be great. It might actually form almost a dam. So I just wanted to flag that because, when you're working with DEP and on the buffer areas and stuff, it may be wise to remove at least some of that yellow iris that's in the stream bed. And on the downhill or south side of the roadway in the same tributary stream bed, there is Phragmites and other invasive stuff along the stream bank. That's Phragmites was the most concerning to me. So, that as you are planning for how to, make that buffer area work better, those things need to be taken into account. And is that something that you're going to do with DEP or what? How does that work?
So, coincidentally enough, one of the easements that follows along this tributary is a township or a municipal stream cleaning easement. So it actually gives the municipality the right to even access the site and clean it. From a DEP's perspective, that is a general permit. We can apply for general maintenance and stream cleaning. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they make that request. We will be submitting for them for general permits to reestablish the existing riparian zone that was impacted by the previous development. So we are restoring the green space with natural and native plantings. And when they go out to the site to visit it, as they always do with any application, I wouldn't be surprised if they identify the same thing that you did and request that stream be cleaned out. And we can absolutely investigate that from our end as well. That's easy enough. And I think that would help the aesthetics of the site, make it look a little better for the residents, get rid of some invasive species, and certainly helps the flow of the stream and doesn't inhibit the stormwater flow. So it's a good idea.
And the basin that the big basin that you're retrofitting to become a bioretention basin, that, as I'm sure you know, was already got a ton of vegetation in it. I thought I was going to see a mowed thing with a low flow channel, but that is not what's there. So I saw in the plan that you're adding trees. I assume you're leaving in place the trees that are already in that basin. Is that correct?
Most likely we won't be able to, as this basin is going to be completely revamped. We have to rip up the bottom.
Oh, okay.
We have to install under drains, but it's going to look a lot better than it does today. We'll put native plantings in there, wet site tolerant, that have the ability to withstand the water, and that will thrive in that environment. It's not going to be your typical sand bottom infiltration basin that you might see. So it's not going to be, like one of those ugly basins on the side of the parkway. This will be a landscaped area with an additional function of stormwater management.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think it looks terrible today. I mean, there's a couple of spots where there's standing water, but which I found surprising even after that silly little drizzling that we had that was supposed to be rain. But there's cattails in there, and it's not a terrible mess. And if you don't need to take out one of the bigger trees, I think there's a river birch that's of considerable size on the edge of it that maybe could be saved. I don't know.
Yep, we're so happy to work with the arborist and our landscape architect to see if maybe there's a way we can work around those existing mature trees to maintain them. So it's certainly something worth investigating.
Okay. And I had a concern, as was flagged in Mr. Dobromilski's note, his memo about substituting native species for some of the landscaping that's non-native. And I guess, when we get to that point, when we've had a lot more testimony, I think it'll be a good idea to discuss whether or not we ask you to come to the landscape committee rather than try to iron out every last detail about landscape, before a vote is taken. But
Understood.
so are there other questions for Mr. Senal? Nathan.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I just want to get clarification. I believe it was testified to that each of the affordable units that do not have their own garages, they will be provided a designated parking space. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And where are those going to be located?
Most likely we'll put a handful of them over in this area and then the other over in this area or up here. So they'll be the closest spaces to those affordable units. We're not going to throw them, somewhere far away. We're not going to put them all the way up here or anything like that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So actually, one other quick thing, and maybe this is an architecture question. Were you done, Nathan? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Oh, no, yes, I was done.
Okay. I'm curious about the placement of all of the affordable units in two buildings and all of the market rate in the other buildings and why there isn't more of, mix it up kind of approach. And also, I wonder whether or not the open area between, if I get close enough to the screen to actually see that your cursor was just there.
Oh.
Between building one or building I and buildings H and G, whether that can be used as a, seating and meeting area rather than what looks like a paved area in between buildings H and G. Do you see what I mean? To have more of a community connection between and among those three buildings.
Yep. So we just saw the center of these two buildings as a good spot for a seating area because you get some decent shade in there, and growing, larger trees might be a little difficult in between the tighter alleyway. And then in addition, we are trying to comply with the ordinance request of wherever you have these front entrances of two buildings facing one another, they need to be separated by a courtyard with a lot of green space. And specifically from the code, it reads that courtyards shall be predominantly pervious and liberally landscaped, and shall be designated with walking paths to connect the entrances to the residents in the neighborhood. So because of that, I think we're trying to avoid adding more impervious surface and just using it as your main walkways and then trying to make it as green as we could. That's why we avoid putting seating and a large plaza area between the two front-facing buildings.
Do you envision seating around the periphery for people who want to just sit and look into the woods, or?
We did provide some seating, especially along the tributary. These are all benches. Same thing on the other side, so they're able to face the re-landscaped natural drainage area. There's some benches that are near the playground area, and then we have the seating areas, two of them, one of which next to D, and then all the way down near Senate Circle, this one especially is kind of tucked away in a nice wooded area. So we tried to provide it in areas that are as scenic as we could for the site, and utilize that natural area for the unnamed tributary in the site center.
Okay. Councilman Cohen and then Jack Taylor.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer, it's really an answer to your question about the clustering of the affordable units.
Yeah.
The difficulty is that with all the different bedroom count distributions that are required for the affordable units, you end up having unit types that don't fit naturally into a stacked townhome repetitive arrangement. And so intermixing the affordable units in with the market rate units in a project of this type is difficult. So that's why the affordable units are in their own buildings. And, I was involved working with Toll to come up with the concept plan for here. We felt like because these, they're not internal hallways like a conventional apartment building where you would expect residents to interact with each other. Really, this outdoor space, this green space between building I and buildings G and H, that's the hallway. That's the public space where people will be circulating to their units. And so we felt that this arrangement actually would give a lot of opportunity for the residents, the affordable units, to socialize with members of with residents, the market rate units. I'm just sort of sharing that insight from our thought process as we worked with Toll on the layout.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Jack, and then Claudia.
Yeah, this subject, David, is one which concerns me as well. On the one hand, I understand the practical implications. That's common sense. Heretofore, it's been my understanding that wherever possible, we would try to minimize the segregation of affordables for obvious purposes. If there's any way we can find financially, comfortably, practically a way to maintain that policy, it seems to me from a social point of view, it's the right thing to do. And so I understand G and H, but I would prefer it to be otherwise. I wish it were otherwise.
Yeah.
Excuse me, can I interject here?
Go ahead, Alvin.
Yeah, let me, we're going to have, I think, a whole section on the affordable housing, the placement, whether Toll is going to accept the recommendations that were in the staff reports. So
Yeah.
I guess what I'm asking is, can we put off, because I have a few questions too. Can we put that off until all this discussion off about the affordables until we actually get there and get some testimony?
Okay, and is that you expect will be after we hear from the architect? I guess I'm asking that of Mr. Tar.
The
Or Mr.
architect, the architect is going to show you the interiors, which are unique. This stacked townhome arrangement is complicated, and we've already had questions about where you put the bicycle in the affordable hallway. Then the planner is an expert in affordable housing and will answer a number of the questions, the more mathematical or
Okay.
theoretical questions.
Okay. Good. That makes a lot of sense to me, Alvin. I think that is a good idea. We'll just put a pin in that. Claudia.
Yeah, I think I was going to say something along the lines of what Alvin said, because I think we've got some more experts that are going to be testifying on various questions that we're jumping ahead on. And I wonder if we should hold our questions until after we've heard more testimony, because I have a number of questions also, and I don't know if the applicant is going to be addressing them or not. But if they do, then maybe we should wait and then see what hasn't been addressed.
Okay. And that sounds like a good idea to me, Mr. Tar. I mean, I think we've pretty much exhausted the questions that we would be asking of the engineer anyway.
Very good.
Who's up next? Mr. Tar?
Corey Chase is next, and if he could be sworn.
He's
Mr. Mueller, you there? Yeah, okay.
I'm
Go
here,
ahead.
but I don't see him.
I'm right here, Mr. Mueller.
Oh, okay. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
So sworn or affirm. State your full name and spell your last name.
Certainly, it's Corey, Corey. Last name is Chase, Chase. Principal with the firm Dynamic Traffic, located at 245 Main Street in Chester, New Jersey.
Corey, you're a professional engineer licensed in New Jersey.
That's correct. And I previously appeared before the municipality on the Avalon Bay application, the Pearl application, and I actually also worked on the Alice as well.
A trifecta.
Yeah, got them all.
So again, I believe those particular jobs would qualify him to be an expert for this job.
We accept your qualifications. Mr. Chase, how long do you expect your testimony to last? I want to be mindful of the time. It's 10:25. I think it's completely clear we're not going to finish everything tonight. And I just want to have a sense of how long you expect to speak.
Certainly, Madam Chair, and just recognizing the hour and just really echoing the comments that Mr. Anosike made at the onset of the meeting, specific to traffic impacts. I expect my testimony to be rather brief. Just briefly review the traffic impact study that was submitted and just echo some of the testimony that Mr. Chenal just provided regarding site access and circulation. And then obviously be available to answer any questions that the board has. Okay. And good evening, everyone. And my testimony is mainly going to focus on slide 8, which is the overall site plan rendering that Mr. Chenal just testified to. It shows the overall site access and circulation for the residential property.
Excuse me, Chris, do you want to qualify Mr. Chase?
We did.
Oh, okay. Just you mean that he testified?
Well, I mean, it was not a lot of detail. It was that Mr. Chase has worked
in other cases.
He's testified before
several other
with respect to all of the other multiple dwellings in the vicinity.
In the direct vicinity of this site, licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, license is still in good standing.
And he's being offered as an expert in what?
Traffic
engineering.
Okay.
And thanks. Good evening, everyone. Madam Chair, members of the board. It's great to see everyone again. And again, my testimony will be focusing on slide 8, which is the overall site plan rendering. It's the same slide that Mr. Chenal just provided the majority of his testimony on. As Mr. Chenal indicated, primary access to the proposed residential development will be off of Thanet Circle. The access points will be located largely in the same location as the access points to the existing office building. We did provide a traffic impact study, which was previously submitted to the municipality. It was dated October 31st, 2025. That did do a pre and post development analysis at the Thanet Circle intersection with Terhune Road to analyze the overall traffic impacts of the redevelopment of the subject property. Notwithstanding the fact that the site was previously occupied by an office building, understanding that it's currently vacant, we didn't take any credit for the traffic that could potentially be generated by that former office building. But utilizing data published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers in the 12th edition of the Trip Generation Manual, which is the current edition of the proposed residential development, is projected to generate a maximum of only 48 trips during the weekday evening peak hour. That's approximately less than 1 trip per minute during that peak period. Just that level of traffic generation in and of itself would not constitute a significant increase in traffic as defined by the New Jersey Department of Transportation. They have a threshold of 100 additional trips during a peak hour as what they term to be a significant increase in traffic. So we're roughly 50% of that threshold to what would be considered a significant increase in traffic. We did do a pre and post development analysis at the Terhune Road intersection with Thanet Circle and found that there are no degradations in the levels of service from the pre and post development conditions. We also took into consideration some additional developments in the area that have been approved but have yet to be constructed, specifically 375 Terhune Road and 457 North Harrison Street were also accounted for. So it was a cumulative analysis at this intersection. It's still showing that there are no detrimental traffic impacts as a result of the redevelopment of the subject property. And again, as I mentioned, the former office building from an ITE trip generation perspective would actually generate more traffic than what the proposed residential development would during those peak conditions. We also took a look at the site access and circulation. As Mr. Chanel mentioned, there are dedicated pedestrian sidewalks throughout the entire development, circulating the majority of the buildings, as well as providing a connection between the eastern and western portions of the development over that pedestrian bridge. We are providing high visibility pedestrian crosswalks at each of the internal roadway intersections. So again, providing safe and efficient access for both vehicles as well as pedestrians throughout the entire network. I know there was some discussion in Mr. Purcell's letter as to, the access to the playground. That was really strategically located along the eastern portion of the development, up in the southeast corner of that development. Really, it's going to be the most low traffic vehicular area of the property. You're only going to have vehicles either visiting or accessing really building I and building G that would potentially be circulating in this area. So very minimum vehicular volume in this area. So again, providing that playground in this area really limits the pedestrian and vehicle interaction that you're going to see in this crossing. As was mentioned by Mr. Chanel, there is dedicated pedestrian pathway, so anyone in buildings A through D would be able to utilize that pedestrian bridge, and again, that internal pedestrian network if they were to choose to access this playground by foot. So we feel that this location, given the crossing that's provided, will certainly provide a safe access for both tenants of the facility as well as their children to access this playground area. As Mr. Purcell did mention too in the onset of the hearing, Thanet Circle, as part of the Avalon Bay development, was designated a bicycle boulevard. So that was restriped and re-signed to indicate through signage as well as the sharrows within the existing roadway that is in fact a bicycle boulevard. So we will have the ability for tenants of this facility to access Thanet Circle and utilize that bicycle boulevard designation to again attain the rest of the municipality's bicycle network on Terhune Road and on Grove Street as well. Madam Chair, that's all I had for direct testimony. Mr. Carr, I'd be happy to touch on anything you think I may have missed, but I'd open myself up to any questions that the board may have or its professionals may have.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions from board members for Mr. Chase? David Cohen?
Yeah, in terms of the bicycle circulation through the development, if a bicyclist is less confident, doesn't want to ride with the cars in the travelways, what's the width of your sidewalks? And, would they be comfortable for a bicyclist to ride on the sidewalks through the site?
And Mr. Chanel, correct me if I'm wrong, but the sidewalks are 5 feet in width. So if a bicyclist, as you mentioned, Mr. Cohen, did feel less comfortable and did not want to utilize the existing travelway, they would be able to utilize the sidewalks to traverse the site.
Even better, some of them are 6 feet. Majority of them, the main ones are 6 feet. So
great.
Does that go for the pedestrian bridge as well?
Yeah, that bridge is 6 feet.
Yeah, and is there ramping at the if you scroll a little bit further up, ramping that would allow access for cyclists?
Yep, yeah, that's fully accessible.
Okay.
Yeah, there are no steps in this pedestrian path through the bridge, so that would be accessible for bicyclists as well, should they choose to utilize it.
Well, with that sharp turn, that might be a challenge. And I'm just overall, sorry, I'm butting in and other people have their hands raised, but there's a lot of sensitivity about people on bicycles and people on foot sharing sidewalks. So if that's if it's intended to accommodate both, then there should be signage somewhere that, makes everybody aware that it's permitted.
Certainly, Madam Chair. And I think another alternative would be to apply a similar treatment that we did to Thanet Circle, and that the main east-west aisle that really leads from the western portion to the eastern portion of the site, that could also be striped as a bicycle boulevard and provide sharrows as well to delineate that bicyclists and vehicles could share this road.
That's right. I mean, you don't want to just squeeze bikes and peds on a tiny and leave all that asphalt just for cars. Right. That sounds like a good idea. Thanks. Freddie Perlmutter and then Jim Purcell.
Yeah, I didn't notice anywhere here, and I'm not sure you're the person, you're probably not the person to ask about this, but for dog park, but it also, I'm wondering, in terms of the traffic and where people walk, where would you take I'm assuming that pets are allowed in this building. Maybe I should start off with that. But then I wondered where, would you think about putting a dog park in somewhere, and on these pathways, et cetera? Is that for dogs as well, for people with pets, as well as, I would assume, with pets as well as for cars and bikes? I mean, they're not that big.
To answer your first question, ma'am, you are correct. I'm not the right witness to ask about dog parks or whether pets would be allowed to access the facility. Certainly with 5 and 6 foot wide sidewalks, those are certainly sufficient width for a resident to walk, any pet that they may have. But I would have to defer the question about location of the dog park, if one's provided or if pets are allowed in the facility.
Alex, pets?
Yes, pets are allowed. We typically limit the amount of pets that they have, but pets are allowed.
Would you consider putting a dog park in somewhere?
I'm not sure if we have room to do that or space to do that anywhere, but can certainly speak to our engineer and take another look at the layout. I don't want to say yes or no right now. It's certainly something we can look into, but from just looking at the plan right now, I just don't see where we would even have space to do that.
There's a new dog park in the Alice across Terhune that's municipally
That's right.
controlled.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris. I'm aware of that.
Yeah. Jim Purcell and then Owen.
Yeah, Corey, I have a question about your traffic study, and since we rely on a consultant, I didn't notice whether or not it was included. But one of our concerns has been the traffic signal timing at the Terhune and North Harrison. Was that included in your analysis, that intersection? And whether or not there was any impact on that intersection?
That was not, Mr. Purcell. Our study was limited to the intersection of Thanet Circle and Terhune. Just based on the level of traffic activity for this development, being that it's less than 1 trip a minute during the peak hour. And you obviously have the ability to disperse the traffic in either direction along Terhune. I wouldn't expect it to have any resulting impact at the signalized intersection in North Harrison.
Thank you.
Owen O'Donnell.
Thank you. I have questions about large trucks, specifically emergency vehicles. Are turning radiuses a problem with the layout?
They are not, Mr. O'Donnell. We did prepare truck circulation plans for both the refuse truck as well as the municipality's largest piece of fire apparatus. Those were submitted as part of the site plan package, and they showed that they could adequately circulate the entire site.
Great, and the garbage trucks was my other concern about that. So thank you very much for answering that. That's all.
When you're looking at traffic impact, I think I know the answer to this, but could you address the question of whether any applicant looks at cumulative traffic impact of, there have been several sizable projects in the immediate vicinity, and I expect folks nearby are concerned not just about the impact of this, but the traffic impact cumulatively. Can you speak to that at all, or?
Yes, certainly, Ms. Wilson. And that's a great question. And we do look at this as a cumulative impact. We did do updated traffic counts at Thanet Circle and Terhune Road, just recognizing the development that's gone on since we did these studies for Avalon Bay and for Pearl and even the Alice. When we did those developments, a lot of things were under construction at that time. So we had a lot more developments that we were including that were approved but not yet constructed. In this study, we had 375 Terhune Road that we included, which is the 30 market rate and affordable townhome development. We also had 457 North Harrison Street, which is the 5-story development. I think it's 191 units in totality. So we included both of those developments in the background traffic. So we did, we took the existing traffic volumes, which is what's currently on the road today, and then we added in the traffic associated with those two developments that are approved but not yet fully constructed, in the background traffic, and then supplemented our traffic on top of that to get an overall cumulative analysis of the impacts on the adjacent roadway network.
Good. That's good to know. Thank you. Mr. Purcell? Your hand is still up.
Forgot to take his hand down again.
Sorry.
That's all right.
You've got to upgrade your Zoom, Jim. Mine lowers my hand automatically.
I don't know how to do that. I'll have to get your input there, David.
Okay.
Well, one of these days you'll try to join a meeting and it won't let you because it will insist that you update, and then you'll have that feature. And you'll be late to your meeting.
And I'm using my personal laptop tonight, so maybe it has something to do with it.
Other questions for Mr. Chase? Okay. Who's next, Mr. Tar?
Our architect is next. I do think he's going to take a while. So
Yeah.
we've got 20 minutes. We could start and finish up next time. Alex, what would you have me do?
I would hate to let the time go by without using it. Do we have a sense of when the next meeting would be by chance?
We do. We just
Do we
talked
have,
about Nathan.
based on
So-
the agenda for the 28th?
Yeah, so we do have one application on for the 28th. So I think it's possible to schedule this for the 28th as well. It's always, you never know how long an application is going to last. Even one that looks like it should be short can take long, but we can definitely, I think, schedule it for the 28th.
I think
Schedule
Let me
this.
jump in here because I have the schedule in front of me. We're wide open on June 4th, June 18th, July 2nd, and July 16th. We have one other thing, but on those 4 dates, we're mostly wide open from applications. The 28th, like Nathan said, we do have an application. I cannot handicap, if you would then have 1 hour for this after, or 3 hours, and end up back on June 4th anyway. So if you're a gambling man, Mr. Tar, you may want to go with the 28th, but if you want the certainty of a full night, you may want to go with June 4th.
That's entirely up to Alex, who's
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Well, we only have 20 minutes left, and I think it would be beneficial to everyone, because there's a lot of questions revolving the architecture. So I think it would be beneficial, even if it's an hour that we have at the meeting on the 28th. It would be better than just doing 20 minutes of testimony right now that, well, everyone may forget by the 28th. So if we can get on the 28th agenda and hope for the best that we get at least an hour and a half to get architecture done, I think we can agree to that.
Madam Chair, I guess we would ask to take a poll to see how many of our members can attend on the 28th.
Anybody unavailable on May 28th? That's a regularly scheduled meeting. It should be on everybody's calendar.
Thank you very much.
I think we look to be good with the quorum, and I agree. I don't want to hear I don't want to split architecture testimony into 2 nights. So I appreciate that. So
Madam
there have
Chair,
been
can we check with our professionals as well? Even though it
Of
is a
course.
regularly scheduled meeting, it is 3 days after Memorial Day.
Yes. So Dan, Jim, Victor, Joe,
I'm
are you all
available,
available? Taylor?
I would like to ask the engineering side. I don't believe that Victor would even need to be attending. I think we've heard traffic testimony.
Okay.
Victor, do you see any reason that you would need to attend? I mean, and are you available?
available, but I don't know unless there's any questions from the public or the board that needs me to weigh in on, but based on the
Okay.
testimony, I don't need to be here.
Well, let's propose that you if you're available, that's good. Joe, stormwater management is going to be critical.
Yeah, Jim, I can be available on the 28th.
Okay. And that's it from my side.
Okay.
I see Dan Dobromilski has his camera on as well.
Yeah, I am available.
Good. And you too, Taylor Gribben?
Yes,
All good?
I'm available.
Okay, good. So there were a few things that we talked about tonight that you told indicated in willingness to work with us on. I'm thinking of the ADA, of the handicap parking, et cetera. Is that something that could be that people could put their heads together on between now and the next meeting, or do we need to wait until further along in the process?
Tomorrow morning. He's on it tomorrow morning. It's no worries.
Okay, so that would be good if maybe some of those questions could be put to rest before, to the satisfaction of staff before.
Yeah, it's enough time for us to share documents back and forth with staff to get their comments.
Yeah, and if I can make a quick suggestion, if there could be some kind of response to the, I know there's a lot of them, but you know, a response memo or letter laying out agreement with, you know, their recommendations, agreement, that sort of thing.
Yeah, might be a little premature. We're absolutely going to do that, but we're halfway through and there's more stuff to come up, so we might be a little early, but we'll start that memo as to the things which have the site civil.
Chris, if I can interrupt for a sec. Nathan, I don't know if you're with all the letters that we had received. I'm almost certain we submitted a response to all of those letters, if that's what you were referring to.
When did you submit that?
I have to see I have to double check.
So the staff memos came out last Friday. So
Yeah, Alex, we were responding, we were writing our memos based on submissions that were last Monday, and we didn't send you the memos until Friday.
Right.
We do have some responses from the professionals' memos on prior site plans. There were multiple submissions of site plans while we were working together on this. So we haven't seen responses to Nathan's memo or my memo.
It's in everybody's it's in everybody's interest that when we finish up, whether it's next time or the time after, we're going to go through the memos paragraph by paragraph and indicate which ones we modified or would agree with completely. We do that every time, as Jerry knows.
Okay. Claudia?
Are there schematics of the building available for us to review? Is that too early?
Three of the
Well,
buildings.
they were submitted. Alex, we submitted the interiors and the exteriors as
We
part
have
of the.
the side views and the front
Yeah,
and back
We're
views.
going to show them to you next month, but we
Yeah.
also submitted, see some of the buildings, not all the buildings.
Yeah, those are in
Right,
the.
yeah, I thought there were three that weren't
Three, I
included.
think.
Some of them, several of them are the same, one to the other. I think there are 6 different, of the 10, there are 6 different types.
Yeah,
But,
not to like get too ahead of ourselves, but just a preview of what you'll hear on the 28th is basically what we submitted was a typical building. And the only difference you'll see is if there's more units in one building versus the next. But the facade, the sides will all be the same for them. And the fronts would essentially be the same. The only difference was how many modules of those buildings. But we'll certainly be presenting that hopefully on the 28th.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think for the architect to walk you through that, I'd feel more comfortable.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So for members of the public, of whom there are 23, 22, we will pick this up again on May 28th. Thank you for your patience. It's a lot of testimony and quite a bit still to come before we finish with the Q&A between board members and staff and the applicant and begin to take public comment. Thanks for hanging in for these hours, and hope you can be back on the 28th.
And there will be no.
Is there anything else that we need to do, Mr. Mueller, to?
And there'll be no further notice of the meeting on the 28th.
No further notice. Okay.
Please just look for the agenda on princetonnj.gov in the municipal calendar for the Zoom link for that meeting.
Good. So I think that brings us to an end for this evening. Mr. Cohen?
I would move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody. Thanks very much. See you next time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Good night.